Chapter 2711. It was finally time to go out and play, so Dongfang Lin was naturally very happy. However, Aunt May and the other two Ancestor Realm experts were gathered together, and the other two frowned slightly when they heard Aunt May's words. This was because Aunt May suggested that it was enough for her to protect Dongfang Lin, while the two of them could rest in the Saint Palace. The old woman and the other beautiful woman were a little hesitant about Aunt May's suggestion. After all, Dongfang Lin's identity was a little special, and they couldn't let anything happen to her. However, Aunt May didn't mind at all. Don't worry, I've seen that there's no danger in the vast thousand domains. Moreover, the two of you can stay in the Saint Palace just in case. As long as the Saint Palace doesn't have any bad intentions, I alone will be enough to protect the princess. Aunt May's words made sense. With her ancestor realm cultivation, the other forces in the vast thousand domains were no threat to her at all. The biggest threat was still the Saint Palace. So Aunt May's suggestion to let the two of them stay in the Saint Palace wasn't without reason. After thinking about it, the two of them finally agreed to Aunt May's suggestion. Just like that, Dongfang Lin left the Saint Palace with Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao under Aunt May's protection alone. Although Dongfang Lin seemed to only have Aunt May protecting her, Aunt May was a genuine Ancestor Realm expert, while Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were only protected by two Saint Palace elders, and their cultivation was only at the End Realm. However, with such ability, there shouldn't be any danger in the vast thousand domains. Therefore, the group went on their way without any worries. Riding on the Saint Palace's spatial spirit boat, the group quickly flew out of the Saint Palace and began to fly towards the east of the vast thousand domains. According to Xiao Yao's plan, the first place they would head to was the famous Emperor's City in the Great Thousand World. Although the current Emperor's City could no longer be considered the #1 city in the Great Thousand World because any of the 4 great holy cities surpassed it as an old and prosperous city, the Emperor's City was still bustling with noise and excitement. Moreover, unlike the Holy City, the City of Emperors had different customs and culture. It was very suitable for Dongfang Lin to go sightseeing. Along the way, Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin chatted happily. Of course, Xiao Yao and Dongfang Lin were the ones talking most of the time. As for Xiao Lao, he had nothing to do most of the time. He was in a lazy state and couldn't be bothered with Dongfang Lin. They didn't encounter any danger along the way and arrived at the City of Emperor without a hitch. After arriving at the City of Emperor, Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin began to stroll around. Completely different from the 4 great holy cities, the Emperor's City had an additional sense of history. After all, the history of the Emperor's City was much deeper than the 4 great holy cities. There were many places where traces of history could be seen. Dongfang Lin was obviously very curious about the City of Emperor. After Xiao Lao entered the City of Emperor, he kept urging Xiao Yao to go to the battle arena. Xiao Lao was most interested in the battle arena. Moreover, it wasn't his first time here. It could even be said that he was a regular customer of the City of Emperor's battle arena. Faced with Xiao Lao's urging, Xiao Yao had no choice but to bring the two of them to the battle arena. Seeing the hubbub of voices and the packed battle arena, as well as the continuous exciting battles, Dongfang Lin was quickly attracted. Xiao Yao, can we participate in the battle arena? Of course you can. Hearing this, Xiao Yao smiled faintly. Anyone could participate in the battle arena. Moreover, there were handsome rewards for winning. Of course, with Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao's status, they naturally didn't care about these rewards. As Xiao Chun, the two brothers had any treasure they wanted. Since they were young, the two of them were born with a golden spoon in their mouths. Knowing that they could sign up for the battle arena, Dongfang Lin was very excited. She immediately expressed that she wanted to participate in the battle herself. As for Xiao Lao, he had already gone to sign up. With Xiao Lao's personality, since he came to the City of Emperor, he probably wouldn't be satisfied if he didn't fight a few battles in the battle arena. Xiao Lao had already signed up long ago. Under Xiao Yao's lead, Dongfang Lin also quickly signed up. As for Xiao Yao, she didn't participate in the registration. She wasn't very interested. Seeing that Dongfang Lin and Xiao Yao had also come to the contestants' resting area, Xiao Lao looked at Xiao Yao and said, "Bro, you signed up too? I thought you didn't like these." "It's not me, it's Dongfang Lin." Hearing this, Xiao Yao replied. Hearing this, Xiao Lao glanced at Dongfang Lin. Then, he curled his lips and said, "Be careful, the warriors here aren't weak." "Oomph, it's none of your business." Hearing this, Dongfang Lin didn't back down at all. The two of them had been like this the entire time. Their words were filled with hostility. Xiao Yao couldn't do anything about it. Xiao Lao felt that Dongfang Lin was too troublesome, while Dongfang Lin felt that Xiao Lao's words were unpleasant. The two of them didn't like each other. After waiting for a short while, it was finally Xiao Lao's turn. Through the contestants' resting area, they could watch the battle up close. Seeing Xiao Lao walk towards the battle arena, Dongfang Lin curled her lips and said, "Humph, it'll be best if he gets beaten up into a pig's head." Hearing this, Xiao Yao smiled helplessly. It was basically impossible for Xiao Lao to get beaten up into a pig's head. Not to mention Xiao Lao's strength, just based on Xiao Lao's identity. As long as the owner of the battle arena wasn't stupid, he would know how to deal with him. In fact, when Xiao Lao signed up, the people in the battle arena probably already knew about it. Therefore, the opponents they arranged for Xiao Lao were generally not too strong. It was obviously impossible for anyone to let Xiao Lao get hurt in the battle arena. However, Xiao Yao didn't say this. Not only Xiao Lao, but even Xiao Yao and Dongfang Lin had already informed the battle arena in advance. After all, they were here to have fun. It wouldn't be good if they got hurt or something unpleasant happened. Dongfang Lin still didn't know that she had already been arranged by Xiao Yao. Even if they fought later, the opponent they chose would only be weaker than Dongfang Lin. On the other hand, Aunt May and the two Sacred Palace elders didn't say anything. It was obvious that the three of them didn't have any objections. When Xiao Lao stepped onto the battle arena, the result was obvious. Without much effort, Xiao Lao defeated his opponent and won easily. The crowd cheered. However, after Xiao Lao won, he didn't leave the battle arena. Instead, he did something that Xiao Yao didn't expect. Xiao Lao turned his head and stared straight at Dongfang Lin with a smile on his face. "Woman, do you dare to come up and fight with me? Don't worry, I won't be heavy-handed. We'll just spar. Begging for your collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations." End of chapter. Chapter 2712. Xiao Yao didn't know that Xiao Lao would suddenly challenge Dongfang Lin. Although she knew that they didn't like each other, Xiao Yao didn't expect Xiao Lao to directly challenge Dongfang Lin. Xiao Yao didn't know that Xiao Lao would suddenly challenge Dongfang Lin. Although she knew that they didn't like each other, Xiao Yao didn't expect Xiao Lao to directly challenge Dongfang Lin. Xiao Yao was slightly stunned. Then, she said unhappily, "Xiao Lao, don't mess around. Come down quickly." "Brother, don't worry. I won't be heavy-handed. After all, I'm very tolerant towards the weak," Xiao Lao said with a smile. However, his eyes were filled with determination. It seemed that this kid had long planned to challenge Dongfang Lin. In fact, this wasn't the first time that Xiao Lao challenged Dongfang Lin. However, he was stopped by Xiao Yao every time. This kid had perfectly inherited his father, Xiao Chun. However, Xiao Yao definitely wouldn't agree to this. Just as Xiao Yao was about to scold Xiao Lao, Dongfang Lin suddenly stood up and said, "Okay, I agree. Young, miss this." Dongfang Lin agreed. Aunt May also tried to persuade her. However, before Aunt May finished speaking, Dongfang Lin interrupted, "Don't worry. I don't care about him." After saying that, Dongfang Lin stepped onto the stage. Seeing this, Xiao Yao shook her head. Why were these two guys so stubborn? Xiao Lao was like this, and Dongfang Lin was also like this. Looking at Dongfang Lin, who had already walked onto the stage, Xiao Yao wanted to stop her, but it was too late. Moreover, if he didn't let the two of them fight, the two of them wouldn't stop. He might as well let the two of them fight. Anyway, if there was any danger, he couldn't stop them. On the stage, the two of them stared at each other. As the surrounding audience saw that the one who stepped onto the stage was actually a young girl, they all began to cheer. After all, in the battle arena, the number of female cultivators was even rarer, let alone a great beauty like Dongfang Lin. "I thought you were scared. However, Xiao Lao didn't care about Dongfang Lin's beauty at all. A faint smile appeared on his face. Do you think I'm you? Dongfang Lin refused to back down. The two of them were just like that. Neither of them liked the other, and neither of them was willing to submit to the other. After a few mocking words, Xiao Lao made the first move. Xiao Lao obviously held back his strength in his first attack. He didn't use his full strength, probably because he was afraid of hurting Dongfang Lin. However, in the face of Xiao Lao's attack, Dongfang Lin easily dispelled it. She then said calmly, "Can you save these boring tests? I'm not as weak as you think." "Oh, okay. Just don't cry when the time comes." Hearing this, Xiao Lao replied in a low voice. Then, he didn't hold back anymore. Dongfang Lin's strength wasn't weak at all. She was almost on par with Xiao Yao. Therefore, when the two of them fought fiercely, it was difficult to determine the winner. However, Xiao Yao, Aunt May, and the others could see that in terms of combat power, Xiao Lao was still superior. Although they couldn't tell in a short period of time, as time passed, the one who would lose would definitely be Dongfang Lin. Obviously, the two of them on the stage also understood this point. Xiao Lao's attacks were swift and fierce, and he gradually gained the upper hand. Although Dongfang Lin tried her best to fight back, there was still a certain gap between her and Xiao Lao. Seeing that he was slowly gaining the upper hand, Xiao Lao opened his mouth and said, "This is your strength? If that's the case, then you can just wait to be defeated. If it's still too early." Hearing this, Dongfang Lin snorted coldly. Read more. She definitely wouldn't admit that Xiao Lao was stronger than her. Even if that was the truth, Dongfang Lin would never admit it. The two of them didn't have any big grudges against each other. They just had some small conflicts. Xiao Lao's goal wasn't to do anything to Dongfang Lin. He just wanted to teach this little girl a lesson. After all, this little girl had been giving him a hard time along the way. Therefore, although he had the upper hand, Xiao Lao's attacks had been purposely avoiding Dongfang Lin's vital parts. It was obvious that he was afraid of hurting her. The two of them didn't want to give in on the stage, especially Dongfang Lin. Before this, she didn't know that this little girl was so stubborn. Even though she knew that she couldn't win, she still wanted to fight Xiao Lao to the death. Regarding this, Xiao Lao naturally wouldn't back down. With Xiao Lao's personality, he was a classic example of someone who could be bullied but not bullied. If you're tough, I'm tougher than you. In this world, the only people who could make Xiao Lao give in were his father, mother, brother, and sister. Other than his family, Xiao Lao would never give in to outsiders. The battle was still going on. Xiao Lao's advantage was obviously getting bigger and bigger. Dongfang Lin's forehead was already covered in sweat. It was obvious that the battle with Xiao Lao had drained her a lot. She was also under a lot of pressure. However, this little girl was stubborn and didn't want to surrender. Regarding this, Xiao Lao also said, "Woman, you don't know what's good for you. You know that you can't win, but you still want to fight? If you continue like this, I'm going to use more force. Come if you can." Hearing this, Dongfang Lin snorted coldly. Surrender was absolutely impossible, especially when facing Xiao Lao. Dongfang Lin was even more unwilling to surrender. However, Dongfang Lin was still shocked by Xiao Lao's strength. One must know that she had been cultivating since she was young. There were very few people in the same generation who could match her. Moreover, Xiao Lao was about the same age as her, but he was stronger than her. This was a huge blow to Dongfang Lin. This foul-mouthed man, she didn't expect him to be so strong. When Xiao Lao saw that Dongfang Lin was still unwilling to surrender, he originally wanted to teach her a lesson. But now, this woman really didn't know what's good for her. Xiao Lao didn't plan to hold back. With a thought, he directly unleashed his sword domain. Below the battle stage, Xiao Yao and the two sacred palace elders were chatting. The two of them looked at Xiao Lao worriedly. "Eldest young master, should we intervene?" Although the two of them were sacred palace elders, they were still very respectful to Xiao Yao. Originally, Xiao Yao wanted to let the two of them fight again. Since they wanted to fight, then he might as well let them fight to their heart's content. It would save them trouble in the future. However, just as Xiao Yao was about to speak, a familiar sword domain power suddenly appeared. Sensing this sword domain power, Xiao Yao suddenly turned his head to look at the battle stage. A trace of anger flashed across his eyes as he cursed inwardly. This fool. The power of the sword domain naturally erupted from Xiao Luo's body, and feeling this power, Xiao Yao knew that this idiot was going to use a heavy hand, and with Dongfang Lin's strength, she definitely wouldn't be able to withstand this attack, and would definitely be injured. Seeing that Xiao Lao had already raised his sword, Xiao Yao immediately said, "Stop him. This fool is being stubborn again." Hearing Xiao Yao's words, the two Sacred Palace elders didn't dare to hesitate and immediately attacked. However, it was obvious that someone was faster than them. It was Aunt May. Chapter 27:13. As a progenitor, Aunt May's eyesight wasn't bad. Upon seeing Xiao Lao's action, Aunt May knew that Dongfang Lin wouldn't be able to withstand his attack. Therefore, before Xiao Yao could say anything, Aunt May made the first move. On the stage, Xiao Lao slashed out with his sword and shouted, "Emperor's sword." That's right. Xiao Lao's attack was his father, Xiao Chen's Emperor's sword. However, compared to Xiao Chun, Xiao Lao's Emperor's sword was much weaker. But even so, it was still difficult for Dongfang Lin to resist. Dongfang Lin refused to admit defeat, which allowed Xiao Lao to execute his killer move. Dongfang Lin would definitely be injured. But just as Xiao Lao's sword slashed down, Aunt May suddenly appeared between the two of them. She blocked Xiao Lao's attack with one hand and protected Dongfang Lin with the other. With Aunt May's progenitor realm cultivation, it wasn't difficult for her to block Xiao Lao's attack. She easily neutralized Xiao Lao's attack perfectly. Aunt May stopped the battle between the two of them. At this moment, Xiao Yao went up the stage and said to Xiao Lao unhappily, "What are you doing?" "Big brother." This woman refused to admit defeat. Xiao Lao said helplessly. "All right, you fool. I'll settle this with you when we get back." Fortunately, there weren't any consequences. After saying that, Xiao Yao apologized to Dongfang Lin again. But Dongfang Lin didn't mind it, and even looked at Xiao Lao. "I didn't expect you to be so strong." This time, Dongfang Lin's tone was obviously different from before. Looking at Dongfang Lin's reaction, Xiao Yao felt helpless. These two foes, just a fight, and they're going to bury the hatchet? However, this was good as well. At the very least, things would be easier in the future. After this small gap, the group of them didn't continue to stay at the battle arena. Not long after, they left and strolled around the Emperor's city. When night fell, the group of them found an inn to rest. The night gradually darkened, but the city of Emperors was still bustling with activity. However, Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others had already entered cultivation. After the battle during the day, the relationship between Xiao Lao and Dongfang Lin eased up quite a bit. At least, they didn't mock each other like before. Xiao Lao's battle prowess shocked Dongfang Lin and earned her approval. Dongfang Lin's unyielding determination made Xiao Lao feel that this woman wasn't completely useless after all. Naturally, Xiao Yao was happy to see this result. However, just as everyone was immersed in cultivation, in Aunt May's room, Aunt May was conversing with a black-clothed person. However, the black-clothed person's figure was illusory. With a single glance, one could tell that it wasn't a physical body. It should have been formed through some special method. It was similar to a sound transmission talisman that could be used to communicate. In fact, that was indeed the case. Under the black figure's feet, there was a small array compass. Obviously, the black figure was formed through this array compass. The face of the black figure couldn't be seen clearly, but the voice was a hoarse male voice. Aunt May was very respectful towards this person. "Master, the plan is going smoothly. When do we take action?" "As soon as possible. That woman has been restless recently. I think she'll take action soon." Hearing this, the hoarse male voice said coldly. After he finished speaking, without waiting for Aunt May's reply, his entire body disappeared from the spot. As the black figure disappeared, the array compass shattered. A cold light flashed in Aunt May's eyes. No one noticed that under the cover of the night, Aunt May had left the room in a flash. She first entered the rooms of the two Sacred Palace experts. the two were cultivating, but at the same time, the two sacred palace elders suddenly opened their eyes. When they saw Aunt May appear in their rooms, a look of caution flashed across their eyes. It was already so late. The two instinctively felt that something was wrong with Aunt May's sudden appearance. Moreover, Aunt May's current expression was completely different from during the day. "Elder, is there something you need?" one of them asked. However, Aunt May only smiled coldly in response. "There's indeed something that I need to borrow." With that, Aunt May directly attacked without waiting for the two to reply. The two sacred palace elders were stunned, but they still chose to retaliate immediately. Although the two of them knew that they were no match for Aunt May, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were still present. Aunt May's change made the two of them feel that something was strange. They also felt that the two young masters were very dangerous, so the two of them wanted to at least give the two young masters a chance to escape. It was originally supposed to be a very simple trip, but who would have thought that there would be a problem with Aunt May's side? They didn't know why Aunt May would do this, but it was undeniable that Aunt May's change was extremely dangerous to Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and even Dongfang Ling. Unfortunately, although the two sacred palace elders immediately retaliated, with one of them even intending to desperately delay Aunt May so that the other would have a chance to inform Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, they failed in the end. As an Ancestor Realm expert, Aunt May directly imprisoned the space. All the aura in the room couldn't be transmitted out, and the outside world couldn't sense anything at all. Without much effort, Aunt May killed the two sacred palace elders. Looking at the two corpses, Aunt May said coldly, "I'll borrow your lives." With that, Aunt May's figure disappeared from the room. Then, in Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao's room, the two brothers, who were also cultivating, were directly captured by Aunt May without any warning. His cultivation had been sealed by Aunt May. Looking at Aunt May in front of him, Xiao Luo's face was filled with rage, but Xiao Yao seemed very calm. "Old thing, what do you mean? Do you want to die? Do you want to die in the great thousand world?" Xiao Lao cursed angrily after being captured by Aunt May. However, Xiao Yao was calm on the contrary. Looking at Aunt May's somewhat gloomy expression, Xiao Yao said indifferently, "Your target shouldn't be us, right?" Xiao Lao didn't think too much about the reason, nor did he know why Aunt May suddenly attacked the two brothers. However, Xiao Yao immediately guessed that Aunt May's change had nothing to do with the two brothers, or rather, it had nothing to do with the sacred palace. The reason for everything was probably Dongfang Lin, and the two brothers had just suffered an undeserved calamity. Aunt May smiled faintly when she heard this, then glanced at Dongfang Lin. Dongfang Lin was naturally under Aunt May's control, and she looked at Aunt May coldly. However, Dongfang Lin was still puzzled as to why Aunt May would suddenly treat her like this. In her impression, Aunt May had always doted on her, and Dongfang Lin was unwilling to believe that Aunt May would harm her. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 27:14. Dongfang Lin looked at Aunt May with a complicated gaze and asked somewhat unwillingly, "Aunt May, why?" Dongfang Lin looked at Aunt May with a complicated gaze and asked somewhat unwillingly, "Aunt May, why?" Dongfang Lin was still unwilling to believe that Aunt May would harm her. Aunt May glanced at Dongfang Lin with a cold smile and said coldly, "Princess, I'm from the Black Wheel world." Dongfang Lin was stunned on the spot. Dongfang Lin was naturally no stranger to the Black Wheel world. It was a sworn enemy of the Red Wind world, just like the relationship between the Vast Thousand world and the Great Devil world. Dongfang Lin's mother was the world master of the Red Wind world, so Aunt May's motive for attacking her was very clear. She was using her to threaten her mother. Dongfang Lin looked at Aunt May in front of her. She did not expect that Aunt May, who had hidden in the Red Wind world for so many years and had even become her mother's confidant, would actually be from the Black Wheel world. Dongfang Lin could not believe it, but reality had given her a hard slap in the face. Dongfang Lin's eyes quickly dimmed, and she immediately apologized to Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. "Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, I'm sorry. I've harmed you." To Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, This was indeed an unexpected disaster because Aunt May's target had always been Dongfang Lin. This also explained why Aunt May had insisted that she only needed to protect Dongfang Lin during this trip. This was because it would not be easy for Aunt May to act if the other two progenitor realm experts were present. Xiao Yao smiled helplessly when she heard Dongfang Lin's words. "It's none of your business." "That's right, old witch. You'll regret this sooner or later. I'll make sure that you can't leave the vast thousand world," Xiao Lao also added. However, Xiao Lao's threat was obviously meaningless because it was uncertain whether the sacred palace had received the news, let alone come forward to stop them. Aunt May smiled coldly in response. "Can't leave the vast thousand world? Heh, little fellow, you're still too naive. I'll bring you all away right now." With a wave of his hand, he left Emperor City with Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin. He then took out the spatial spirit boat he had snatched from the two sacred palace elders and rushed towards the black hole. In front of an ancestor realm expert, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao clearly did not have much chance of escaping. The reason why Aunt May wanted to bring Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao along was probably because of their identities. Although the Black Wheel world and the Vast Thousand world didn't have much contact for the time being, since Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were Xiao Chen's sons, who knew if they would be useful in the future. Moreover, tying up one was the same as tying up three. At most, they would be killed when they were no longer useful. Aunt May simply brought along Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. The spatial spirit boat rushed all the way towards the black hole. Inside the spatial spirit boat, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao's cultivations were sealed, and their movements were also restricted by Aunt May. Dongfang Lin asked nervously, "Xiao Yao, what should we do now?" This old witch. I must get father to kill her." Xiao Lao cursed angrily. Xiao Yao fell into silence. After a long while, she said, "It's probably too late. By the time Mother and the others find out, we might have already been taken out of the vast thousand world." Xiao Yao's guess was correct. The sacred palace had not received any news yet, and Aunt May was already rushing towards the black hole. At the current speed, by the time the sacred palace realized that something was wrong, they would have been taken out of the vast thousand world by Aunt May. Rainbow Literature Network hearing Xiao Yao's words. Dongfang Ling and Xiao Lao were both stunned. Then, both of them asked nervously, "Then what should we do?" Their temperament was indeed incomparable to Xiao Yao's. When faced with such a situation, they couldn't help but panic. In response, Xiao Yao said calmly, "With our abilities, there's no way we can escape. Now, we can only try our best to stay alive and stall for as much time as possible. But how can we stall for time? Right now, we're fish on the chopping board." Xiao Lao said irritably. The difference in strength was so great, not to mention being taken out of the vast thousand world. When the time came, there would be no one to help them. Xiao Lao appeared to be very irritated, but Xiao Yao said calmly, "First of all, Dongfang Ling is definitely useful to Aunt May, so she won't kill you easily. After all, according to her, you should be of great use to the Black Wheel world. So, next, I need you to tell me in detail about the Black Wheel world and the Red Wind world." Xiao Yao said, "Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. In order to formulate a feasible plan, it was necessary to understand the Black Wheel world and the Red Wind world. As for other things, Xiao Yao did not have any better ideas. Xiao Yao was now thinking about how to live longer. The rest could only depend on when her father and the others could come to rescue her. Before her father, Xiao Chun, and the others could come to rescue her, Xiao Yao could only think of ways to save the lives of the three of them. After all, there was only hope if they were alive. After hearing Xiao Yao's words, Dongfang Lin did not hesitate this time. She quickly told Xiao Yao about the Red Wind world and the Black Wheel world in detail. While Xiao Yao was learning about the Black Wheel world and the Flood Peak world in detail, on the other side, Aunt May also drove the spatial spirit boat to the black hole. As expected, as soon as the spatial spirit boat appeared, it was stopped by Wu Huan and the others. Aunt May was not surprised by this. She stood on the deck with a calm expression and looked at Wu Huan and the others. "I have an urgent matter to return to the Red Wind world. Palace Master Xianyuan of your sacred palace knows about this. Aunt May casually made up a lie and said without blushing. According to her, she was returning to the Red Wind world by herself this time. As for Dongfang Lin and the others, they were still in the vast thousand world. The spatial spirit boat was also lent to her by the sacred palace. Because he had not received any message from the sacred palace beforehand, Wu Huan did not doubt Aunt May's words and quickly let her pass. Watching the spatial spirit boat slowly fly into the black hole, Xiao Lao and Dongfang Lin's faces were ashen. Only Xiao Lao frowned as if he was thinking about something. Xiao Yao had long guessed that Wu Huan outside the black hole would not be able to stop Aunt May. Moreover, the sacred palace had not received any news yet. Clearly, there was not enough time. Fortunately, before Aunt May took her away, Xiao Yao had left some clues in the inn in the city of Emperor. Based on these clues, her parents should be able to easily connect Aunt May and the Black Wheel world. When the time came, they would be able to immediately rescue her. Now, what Xiao Yao needed to do was to ensure that she and her brother, Xiao Lao, survived. Chapter 27:15. There was no need to worry about Dongfang Lin's safety. After all, Aunt May's target this time was Dongfang Lin, and the two brothers were only incidental to her. It could be said that they had suffered an undeserved calamity. There was no need to worry about Dongfang Lin's safety. After all, Aunt May's target this time was Dongfang Lin, and the two brothers were only incidental to her. It could be said that they had suffered an undeserved calamity. Therefore, if it was not necessary, Aunt May and the World Lord of the Black Wheel world would not harm Dongfang Lin. This was because they needed Dongfang Lin. Otherwise, they would not have spent so much effort to kidnap Dongfang Lin. The ones in the most danger now were Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. After all, compared to Dongfang Lin, the two brothers were of very little use to the Black Wheel world. Since they were of no use, it was very likely that they would be killed because there was no point in keeping them alive. Therefore, Xiao Yao had been thinking about how to protect the lives of the two brothers or to show their value. Only with value could they survive, and only then could they successfully wait for their father, Xiao Chun, to rescue them. Although he knew that his father would definitely come, if he were to die before then everything would be meaningless. Even if his father were to avenge the two brothers, what could he do? As they pondered, the space spirit boat had already rushed out of the vast thousand world and sped through the black hole. After Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, as well as Dongfang Lin, were kidnapped by Aunt May, the sacred palace quickly discovered that something was wrong. The first to discover the problem was an elder in charge of guarding the Life Tablet Hall. As long as one reached the rank of deacon or core disciple in the sacred palace, they would have a life tablet stored in the Life Tablet Hall to ensure their safety. Tonight, the life tablets of the two elders of the House of Blades had suddenly shattered. There is only one possibility for the life tablet to shatter, and that was that the owner of the life tablet had died. Although the death of the two elders was no small matter to the sacred palace, it was not enough to make the elder in charge of guarding the life tablet hall pale with fright. It was because the two elders who had died were the ones in charge of protecting Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. If the two elders had died, did that mean that the two young masters were also in danger? Without any hesitation, the elder immediately passed the news to Xianyuan Ling. At the same time, he personally rushed to Xiao Qin's residence to inform Qin Shu, Fairy of 100 Flowers, and the other girls. The sky gradually brightened. It seemed that it was a peaceful night, but before Qin Shu and the girls could relax, they saw the elder in charge of guarding the Life Tablet Hall hurriedly to report that he had an important matter to report. After Xiao Yao's death, Zhao's death, and the two elders to protect to Xiao to was to die. The hall became a hall. The hall became so quiet that a pin dropped the pins to Lao heard. The elder kept his head lowered, not daring to ask Qin Shu and the girls, but he did not get a response for a long time. The elder cautiously raised his head to look at the girls, only to see that Qin Shu and the girls' faces were terrifyingly gloomy. This was the elder's first time seeing Qin Shu and the girls' expressions. The girls had always presented themselves as dignified, But now, each of them looked extremely cold. What about Yao and Lao Er's life tablets? Fairy of 100 Flowers asked coldly after a moment. Madam, the two young masters' life tablets are fine. The elder hurriedly lowered his head and replied. Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao's life tablets were not broken, which meant that the two of them should still be alive. This should be good news, but what exactly happened? Why did the two elders' life tablets break? Wu Yu, there was probably no one in the vast thousand worlds who dared to attack the elders of the sacred palace. Could it be the progenitor from the Red Wind world? After all, the only person who could kill two sacred palace experts in such a short period of time was probably the ancestor stage expert from the Red Wind world who was traveling with them. Aunt May was the only one who could do so. While Fairy of 100 Flowers was pondering, Xin Yuan Ling hurriedly strode over. Sister-in-law. Clearly, Xin Yuan Ling had also come because of this matter. The elder respectfully bowed when he saw Xin Yuan Ling and Fairy of 100 Flowers, and the girls also stood up and greeted. Big brother, there's no need for that. The matter is urgent, and I think it might have something to do with the progenitor from the Red Wind world. Xin Yuan Ling waved his hand and said bluntly. Just as Fairy of 100 Flowers thought, Xin Yuan Ling also immediately believed that the people from the Red Wind world were involved. After all, how could there be such a coincidence? Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, who had gone out to train countless times, had never encountered any danger. But this time, something like this happened when they went out with the people from the Red Wind world. Who would believe that this had nothing to do with the people from the Red Wind world? Surround the people from the Flood Peak world. I will personally look for the progenitor. Before we find Yao and Lao don't let the people from the Red Wind world take half a step out of the sacred palace, Qin Shiru immediately said. First, control the people from the Red Wind world. Xin Yuan Ling did not refuse. Seeing this, Qin Shiru immediately left and went to look for Jun Wuya, Dao Xiong, and the other progenitors. Meanwhile, Fairy of 100 Flowers looked at Xin Yuan Ling and asked, Did you find out where they were last seen? Yes, the city of Emperor, Xin Yuan Ling replied straightforwardly. With the means of the sacred palace, it was not difficult to find the whereabouts of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Before they came, Xin Yuan Ling had already found out that the last place they were seen was in the city of Emperor. In that case, big brother, you stay in the sacred palace and control the people from the Red Wind world. We will go to the city of Emperor with second sister to investigate, said Fairy of 100 Flowers. They would split into two groups. The people from the Red Wind world had to be controlled, but at the same time, someone must go to the city of Emperor. Moreover, in order to guard against Aunt May, Fairy of a progenitor deliberately brought Long Qing. After all, Long Qing was also a progenitor. Even if she encountered Aunt May, she was enough to fight. Xin Yuan Ling did not refuse Fairy of 100 Flowers' suggestion because it was indeed the best way to deal with it at the moment. Soon, the group split into two groups. Fairy of 100 Flowers, Tianyu, and Long Qing led a group of sacred palace experts to the city of Emperor, while Xin Yuan Ling, Qin Shu, Gu Ling Yao, Hong Xiu, and the others led people to control the people from the Red Wind world. For a time, the entire sacred palace was mobilized. Countless figures flew across the sky, breaking the peace of the past. In response, the other two Red Wind world progenitor realm experts in the sacred palace naturally sensed this. The beautiful woman asked suspiciously, What's going on? Chapter 27:16. It was obvious that something big was happening in the Saint Palace. Many Saint Palace masters were constantly flying across the sky, just like an awakened beast. It was obvious that something big was happening in the Saint Palace. Many Saint Palace masters were constantly flying across the sky, just like an awakened beast. As soon as the beautiful woman finished speaking, an Emperor Realm Master from the Red Wind world ran into the main hall and said, Sir, it's not good. The Saint Palace has surrounded our residence, and no one is allowed to enter or leave. Hearing this, the beautiful woman and the old woman were both stunned. What did this mean? Why did the Saint Palace suddenly surround them? But before the two could think further, Xin Yuan Ling strode in with Jun Weia and Luo Xing, as well as a group of Saint Palace masters. Although there were more than a dozen Red Wind World masters blocking their way, they couldn't stop them at all. It could be considered as forcing their way in. Seeing this, the beautiful woman's face sank. I need an explanation. Hearing this, a chill flashed in Xin Yuan Ling's eyes. Then, he glanced at the Red Wind World cultivators who had been blocking his way. Facing an Emperor Realm Master, Xin Yuan Ling pointed his finger without warning. His finger flashed, and the rich samsara force instantly pierced through the Red Wind World cultivator's head like a sharp GNE. He had directly killed a person. Moreover, he had killed that person in front of two ancestor stage experts. The beautiful woman and the old woman were stunned when they saw all of this. They had never imagined that Xin Yuan Ling would actually kill someone without saying anything. At this moment, Xin Yuan Ling finally opened his mouth and spoke in an indifferent voice. What a coincidence! I also need an explanation. My two young masters were kind enough to bring your young miss out on a trip, but they just had to go missing. The two elders in charge of protecting my young miss were also killed and their life tablet shattered. I think this matter should be related to your Red Wind World, right? Previously, Xin Yuan Ling's attitude towards the Red Wind World could be considered kind, but now that Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao had gone missing and the Red Wind World couldn't deny that it had something to do with this matter, Xin Yuan Ling naturally wouldn't be kind anymore. If something really happened to Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, then these Red Wind World Masters present, including these two Ancestor Realm Masters, didn't have any reason to live. Now, they were only under house arrest, waiting for the truth of the matter to be uncovered. Hearing Xin Yuan Ling's words, the beautiful woman and the old woman's expressions became extremely interesting. The beautiful woman was stunned. Young lady, how was my young lady? Realizing that the situation was probably serious, the beautiful woman also thought of Dongfang Lin's safety. In response, Xin Yuan Ling only indifferently replied, "It's still under investigation. You'd better hope that this matter has nothing to do with you. Otherwise, your group won't have to leave the vast thousand world. All of you will be buried with my two nephews." This was a blatant threat. Hearing this, the beautiful woman's face darkened. She wanted to say something, but was stopped by the old woman. The old woman shook her head silently at her, then looked towards Xin Yuan Ling and cupped her hands together in greeting. This matter definitely wasn't done by us. After all, we can't risk the young lady's safety. I hope you can investigate clearly. The situation was stronger than the person. The old woman knew very well that the Sacred Palace's attitude towards them had completely changed. If they fought force with force, they obviously wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. Moreover, judging from Xin Yuan Ling's series of actions, he really dared to kill. If things went wrong, it wasn't impossible for him to kill all of them here. After hearing the old woman's words, Xin Yuan Ling only said a few words and left. I hope so. But before the matter is investigated, I hope you can stay here peacefully and don't do anything you shouldn't do. With that, she left with her group. At the same time, the cave dwelling where the group of people from the Red Wind World lived was completely surrounded by Sacred Palace experts. At the same time, Jun Wuya and Luo Xing were directly overseeing the place to prevent the people from the Red Wind World from doing anything out of the ordinary. The people from the Red Wind World were all under house arrest. At the same time, a group of Sacred Palace experts had also arrived at the city of Emperor, led by Hundred Flower Fairy, Tian Yu, and Long Qing. As soon as they arrived at the city of Emperor, Hundred Flower Fairy directly ordered, "Surround the city. No one can leave. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy." Before the matter was investigated clearly, no one could leave the city of Emperor, only enter. As soon as Hundred Flower Fairy's voice fell, the city of Emperor immediately fell into a state of curfew. Many Sacred Palace experts directly took over the city of Emperor's defenses, and there were figures of Sacred Palace experts at every gate. This change quickly attracted the attention of many cultivators in the city of Emperor. At the city gate, someone wanted to leave the city, but was directly rejected. In response, someone complained in dissatisfaction. Why are we not allowed to leave the city? The sacred palace has ordered that no one can leave the city of Emperor. You want to leave the city? Hearing this, a sacred palace deacon looked coldly at the cultivator and asked. Hundred Flower Fairy had already said very clearly that anyone who disobeyed would be killed without mercy. Therefore, as long as someone dared to break in, the sacred palace dared to kill them. This matter concerned the two young masters. The sacred palace wasn't here to reason with these people. If they said that no one could leave, then no one could leave the city. At the same time, the sudden arrival of many sacred palace experts also shook the city Lord Manor. The city lord personally came to see Hundred Flower Fairy and the other women. When he saw Hundred Flower Fairy, Tian Yu, and Long Qing, the city lord was stunned. He knew the identity of these three women. They were definitely the upper echelons of the sacred palace's upper echelons. Since the three women were all here, it was obvious that something big had happened. For a moment, the city lord hesitantly came to Hundred Flower Fairy and the other two women and respectfully bowed. In response, Hundred Flower Fairy only said indifferently, "From now on, everything in the city of Emperor will be temporarily under the sacred palace's control. Withdraw all your people to the city lord manor and wait for the sacred palace's investigation." A sentence forcefully deprived the city lord manor of all its authority and even wanted to investigate the city lord manor. The city lord didn't dare to object and nodded repeatedly. However, he guessed that something big must have happened. Otherwise, the sacred palace wouldn't have mobilized so many people. Hundred Flower Fairy obviously wouldn't let anyone go. Since Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao had appeared in the city of Emperor, then everyone in the city of Emperor would have to be investigated, including the city lord manor and the various major forces. With the arrival of the sacred palace experts, the originally chaotic city of Emperor instantly quieted down. The sacred palace experts also began to investigate in the city of Emperor. Every major force had a sacred palace expert overseeing the investigation. A series of investigations were carried out immediately. Hundred Flower Fairy and the other two women directly rushed to the inn where Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao had stayed that day. That was the focus of the investigation. Chapter 27:17. The sudden arrival of the sacred palace could be said to be incomparably overbearing. Not only did they directly take over the city's defenses, but they also forcefully investigated all the major forces and cultivators in the city, including the city lord's mansion. The sudden arrival of the sacred palace could be said to be incomparably overbearing. Not only did they directly take over the city's defenses, but they also forcefully investigated all the major forces and cultivators in the city, including the city lord's mansion. Apart from being a little displeased, the crowd was more curious about the sacred palace's actions. Although the sacred palace was overbearing and unquestionable, they did not indiscriminately hurt anyone. As long as they obeyed the sacred palace's arrangements, they would basically be fine. Of course, if you refused to cooperate or tried to force your way out of the city, the outcome was obvious. You would be killed on the spot. Sensing that the sacred palace had no intention of killing the innocent, everyone quickly calmed down and was very cooperative with the sacred palace's investigation. However, many people were still wondering what had happened that would cause the sacred palace to make such a big fuss about it. However, he was certain that this matter was no small matter. On the other side, Flower Fairy and the other two girls brought people to the inn where Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao stayed that day. In the face of the arrival of the sacred palace group, the innkeeper appeared to be in fear and trepidation, and even his body could not help but tremble slightly. What a joke! He was just a small innkeeper. Let alone the sacred palace. Even the city lord's mansion rarely interacted with him. But now, standing in front of him were the true upper echelons of the sacred palace, and the wife of sacred master Xiao Chun. For a moment, the innkeeper found it difficult to calm down. Seeing the nervous look on the innkeeper's face, Hundred Flower Fairy also dismissed the idea of asking him because it would be difficult to get anything out of him in his current state. No one is allowed to enter or leave the inn. Just stay in the inn and wait. Don't worry, as long as you move around, the sacred palace will not hurt you. Hundred Flower Fairy did not make things difficult for the innkeeper and only told him to stay in the inn with peace of mind. At the same time, the inn was firmly under the control of the sacred palace, and no one else could approach it. After asking about the room where Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao stayed that day, Hundred Flower Fairy, Tianyu, and Long Qing went straight to the room. As for the rest of the sacred palace group, they stayed in various parts of the inn. It had only been a night since the incident with the two brothers. The sacred palace's reaction speed could be said to be extremely fast. There was still a faint remnant of spirit energy in the air, and judging from the strength of this remnant spirit energy, it should be an ancestor realm expert. Hundred Flower Fairy looked at Long Qing. Under her gaze, Long Qing nodded and said with certainty, "It is indeed a martial ancestor. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the martial ancestor from the Red Wind world. I think she's called Aunt May." Long Qing was now also a martial ancestor, so she was naturally very familiar with the spirit energy and aura of a martial ancestor. Hundred Flower Fairy's expression did not change when she saw her nod. She did not say anything, but in her heart, she was already certain that Aunt May was definitely related to this matter. She just did not know how the rest of the people from the Red Wind world were, and whether they were involved in this matter. She was certain of two things from her aura. Aunt May had appeared in this room, and had even fought in this room, which was why she still had some energy left. And this was the room where the two brothers, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, lived. To make a move here, who was the target? It was very likely the two brothers. With a preliminary judgment, Hundred Flower Fairy continued to search in the room. Finally, in a hidden corner of the room, Hundred Flower Fairy saw two very inconspicuous words. Judging from the handwriting, these two words were obviously written by Xiao Yao. However, it should have been written in a hurry, and was not even completely written. She could only deduce the meaning of these two words from the general shape of the word. One of them was plum, the other was black. Plum probably represented Aunt May. But what did black mean? This was a clue left by Xiao Yao, so it should be very important. Hundred Flower Fairy looked at these two words in silence for a long time, until Tianyu asked, "Sister, what does this black word mean?" Tianyu also guessed that plum represented Aunt May, but what about black? Hearing this, Hundred Flower Fairy frowned slightly. "I'm afraid you'll have to ask the people from the Red Wind world." After guessing for a long time, she still could not figure out what the black word meant. Hundred Flower Fairy felt that only the people from the Red Wind world could give her an answer. Moreover, Hundred Flower Fairy already had a rough guess, but she was not sure. She could only return to the Saint Palace and ask the people from the Red Wind world to give her an answer. Thinking of this, Hundred Flower Fairy stood up and said seriously to Tianyu and Long Qing, "Second sister, Tianyu, you two continue to stay in the City of Emperor. I'll return to the Saint Palace first." Time was of the essence. The sooner she knew the meaning of the black word, the faster she could understand the situation. This way, she could rescue Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao as soon as possible. And the sooner she did it, the higher the chances of the two brothers being rescued. Hearing this, Tianyu and Long Qing both nodded in response without hesitation. Then, Hundred Flower Fairy left the City of Emperor alone and returned to the Saint Palace through the teleportation array. As a famous city in the vast thousand world, the City of Emperor naturally had a spatial passage that connected to the Saint Palace. However, it was only connected to the East Saint City. Previously, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao did not use the teleportation array. After all, they were going out to train, and using the teleportation array was not very fun. Soon, they returned to the Saint Palace. Without resting, Hundred Flower Fairy immediately found Xian Yuanling. At the same time, Qin Shu, Gu Lingyao, and Hongxue were also there. Seeing Hundred Flower Fairy, Qin Shu anxiously asked, "How is it? There's some progress." "Yao, left us some clues, but there are some things I don't quite understand. I want to personally meet the two progenitor realm experts from the Red Wind world." Hundred Flower Fairy replied bluntly. Everyone present was family, so there was naturally no need to hide anything. Hearing this, Qin Shu immediately nodded and said, "Okay, we'll go with you." As they spoke, the group went straight to the cave abode where the Red Wind world cultivators lived. The cave abode had been completely cordoned off, and no one was allowed to enter or leave. The people of the Red Wind world were also very tactful and did not make any excessive moves. After all, this was the St. Palace's territory, and they knew what to do. As Hundred Flower Fairy and the others entered the cave abode, several Red Wind world cultivators stepped forward to stop them. At this time, Hundred Flower Fairy spoke directly. "I want to see the person in charge. Quickly take me there." What do the black words mean? Only by figuring out this matter could they understand the whole story and determine where Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were now, and how to rescue them. Seeking collection, seeking monthly votes, seeking recommendation. Chapter 27:18. Hundred Flower Fairy, Qin Shiru, and the others didn't give the crowd a chance to refuse. They walked in while walking. The Red Wind world's cultivators were powerless to stop them. They were like fish on the chopping board now. Hundred Flower Fairy, Qin Shiru, and the others didn't give the crowd a chance to refuse. They walked in while walking. The Red Wind world's cultivators were powerless to stop them. They were like fish on the chopping board now. They walked all the way to the main hall. Here, they saw the old woman and the beautiful woman, the two progenitor experts of the Red Wind world. Facing Hundred Flower Fairy and the others, the two of them didn't show much surprise. They looked at the crowd calmly. "I've been to the city of Monarch, the place where Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin were last seen," Hundred Flower Fairy said bluntly as soon as she arrived. Hearing this, the beautiful woman couldn't keep her composure. She asked nervously, "Miss, how is our miss?" The beautiful woman was obviously worried about Dongfang Lin's safety. Hundred Flower Fairy had been observing the changes in the beautiful woman's expression. Looking at her, it didn't seem like she was acting. She really didn't know where Dongfang Lin was. However, it was too early to make a conclusion. Then, Hundred Flower Fairy said calmly, "Like Yao and Lao they've all gone missing. Aunt May is also missing." "They've all gone missing?" Hearing this, the beautiful woman was stunned. The old woman beside her was very calm. She didn't interrupt, and her expression didn't change much. "Why? Let me out. I want to find Mississippi." After being stunned for a moment, the beautiful woman became agitated. She expressed that she wanted to find Dongfang Lin herself. However, her request was undoubtedly rejected by Hundred Flower Fairy. The beautiful woman immediately intended to attack when facing this. On the other hand, Xin Yuanling, Jun Wuya, and Luo Xing weren't willing to be outdone, and they immediately intended to stop her. However, right at this moment, the old woman that hadn't spoken since the beginning spoke. "Stop. I don't think all of you have come here just for this matter. To be honest, my Red Wind world does not know about this matter. Therefore, if all of you have any information, why don't you tell us and we can discuss it together? Only then will we be able to find the young lady and the two young masters faster." The old woman was clearly much calmer. Flower Fairy also nodded in agreement. Then, the group sat down and Flower Fairy told them about her discovery in the City of Emperors. The meaning of the word plum was very clear. It was referring to Aunt May. But what about the word black? Faced with Hundred Flower Fairy's question, the old woman and the beautiful woman were both stunned, and then their eyes revealed a trace of disbelief. Seeing the sudden change in their expressions, Flower Fairy and the others looked at each other. Obviously, the old woman and the beautiful woman knew something about this black character. "Impossible! How is this possible?" As expected, the beautiful woman murmured in disbelief. Hearing this, everyone was even more certain that the old woman and the beautiful woman knew something. As such, Qin Shuru asked, "Since the two of you know something, then tell us." Hearing this, the beautiful woman ignored it, but the old woman said with a complicated expression, "We also did not expect this. That black character, if I'm not wrong, should be the Blackwell world." Blackwell world? Hearing the old woman's words, everyone was stunned. They had never heard of the Blackwell world, but with the old woman's explanation, everyone quickly understood. The Blackwell world and the Red Wind world were two universes adjacent to each other, just like the Great Thousand world and the Primordial world. However, the Red Wind world and the Blackwell world One belonged to the alliance of the Orthodox Tao, while the other belonged to the Dark Age. Therefore, the two universes had always been mortal enemies. They had fought openly and covertly for many years, and countless large and small battles had broken out. Because of this, there had even been more than one warlord's fall. It could be said that the hatred between both sides was deeply engraved in their bones, and it was impossible to let go. After understanding the matters of the Black Wheel world, everyone quickly outlined the general process of the whole matter in their minds. Aunt May was from the world of Black Luin. She was the one who kidnapped Dongfang Lin. The Xiao brothers, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, were also kidnapped. In an instant, the matter became clear, and Gu Lingyao could not help but yell at the old woman and the beautiful woman. "Are you people from the Red Wind world, fools? Someone else's spy has already hidden in the upper echelons of your Red Wind world, and you don't even know anything?" Aunt May's position in the Red Wind world was not low, and she was very close to Dongfang Lin, but no one in the Red Wind world had discovered that she was a spy from the Black Wheel world. Hearing Gu Lingyao's words, the old woman and the beautiful woman did not refute. After all, this was indeed their negligence, which led to this matter. No wonder she insisted on protecting Miss alone. The old woman sighed helplessly. Now that they thought about it, Aunt May was indeed very pitiful. At this time, Qin Shiru had already ordered, "Tell Wu Huan that no one is allowed to enter the spatial black hole. Tell Tsang Xing, Dao Ju, Xiao Xiao, Dan Xian, and Chu Ming to go to the black hole together." 5 progenitor realm experts were sent out at once to prevent Aunt May from bringing Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao out of the Great Thousand World. In that case, things would be even more difficult. However, Flower Fairy was extremely helpless about this. In terms of time, it should be too late. Since Aunt May had taken action, she would definitely not delay any time after she succeeded, and would bring the 3 of them out of the Great Thousand World as soon as possible. At this moment, they should have already left the Great Thousand World. Even so, what should be done still had to be done. What if they hadn't left the Great Thousand World yet? Therefore, Flower Fairy did not stop Qin Shiru. However, hope was beautiful in the end, and reality was indeed cruel. Very soon, before Tsang Xing and the others had even sensed the black hole, Wu Huan had already sent a message back, informing them that Aunt May had already left the spatial black hole alone several hours ago, and she had even boarded the Sacred Palace's spatial spirit boat. Aunt May had left. She had really left the Great Thousand World. Qin Shiru's face darkened when he heard this. In the end, he was still a step too late. In the Great Thousand World, with the Sacred Palace's strength, even if Aunt May kidnapped Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, she could still rescue them. Moreover, she could not escape from the Great Thousand World. However, now that Aunt May had left the Great Thousand World, she was like a bird flying in the sky and a fish swimming in the sea. It would not be so easy to catch her now. I want to contact the World Master of my family. They must be on their way back to the Blackwell world, so I think that our 2 families should join forces. Only then will there be more hope, the old woman said at this moment. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. End of chapter. Chapter 2719. Aunt May had kidnapped Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin, and her target had been confirmed to be the Black Wheel world. Now that they had figured out the ins and outs of the matter, the Red Wind world and the Vast Thousand world had a common enemy. Hearing the old woman's words, Flower Fairy and Qin Shiru looked at each other. Joining forces was indeed a good choice, and the chances of rescuing Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were obviously higher. However, they didn't know much about the Red Wind world, and didn't know what the Red Wind world was like. But now, the matter had been clarified. The whole thing was done by Aunt May alone, and it had nothing to do with the others in the Red Wind world. After pondering for a moment, Qin Shiru and Flower Fairy finally agreed. Both women were eager to save their children. After receiving permission, the old woman quickly contacted the World Lord of the Red Wind world, Dongfang Lin's mother, and the other side quickly responded. Next, everyone discussed what to do next. Judging from the current situation, Since Aunt May had successfully escaped from the vast thousand world, the only way to save her was to go to the Black Wheel world. After all, it was clearly impossible to find Auntie May in a spatial black hole or the vast starry sky. Even if the sacred palace sent out everyone, it would still be very difficult to find Auntie May in such a large area. Therefore, going to the Black Wheel world was the only way at present, but what to do next would depend on the decision of the two world lords. After the discussion, Qin Shu, Flower Fairy, and the others left. They didn't return to their residence, but went directly to the main hall of the Sword Sect. The matter of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao had been clarified, but what should they do next? Should they inform Xiao Chun of this matter? But the Land of Source was now inaccessible, and there was no way to contact Xiao Chun. Moreover, Xiao Chen's closed-door training this time was very important and couldn't be disturbed in the slightest. If they rashly disturbed Xiao Chun at this time, what would they do if they failed? Attacking the Black Wheel world and rescuing Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao must be decided by Xiao Chun, and Xiao Chun must be present. Unfortunately, Xiao Chun couldn't be contacted at all. In the main hall, everyone had a heated discussion, including Qin Shu and Flower Fairy, who didn't agree to rashly disturb Xiao Chun at this time. Everything would wait until Xiao Chun came out of closed-door cultivation and then decide. Moreover, Aunt May would not arrive at the Black Wheel world overnight. At the same time, the World Lord of the Red Wind world had not given any instructions, so for the time being, they could only wait and see. However, Qin Shu and Flower Fairy didn't really do nothing. They had already sent people to the Black Wheel world. On the one hand, they wanted to inquire about Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, and on the other hand, they wanted to see the situation of the Black Wheel world. Xiao Xiao and Long Qing were chosen to be sent to the Black Wheel world, and only the two of them acted alone. After all, it was inconvenient to act with more people. In addition, the two of them were progenitor realm experts, and as long as they didn't provoke the overlord of the Black Wheel world, there shouldn't be any danger. For the time being, they would rush to the Black Wheel world to hide and wait for the next move of the Sacred Palace. Everything seemed to have been arranged properly, and everything that could be done had been done. Now, they could only hope that Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao would be smart enough to think of a way to protect themselves. The matter of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao had caused the atmosphere in the Sacred Palace to become somewhat heavy. However, several days passed like this. On this day, a small spatial spirit boat rapidly flew out of the spatial black hole that led to the Great Thousand World. In response, the Sacred Palace experts naturally acted to stop it. One could see a beautiful woman standing proudly on the spatial spirit boat. She wore a purple palace robe, and her expression was calm as she stood on the deck. In the face of the Sacred Palace experts' obstruction, the beautiful woman coldly said, "Scram." With a wave of her hand, she sent all of the experts with divine arts flying. As for Nangongguan, who had been in charge of guarding the spatial black hole, she was grabbed by the beautiful woman and dragged to the deck without being able to put up any resistance. Nangongguan couldn't move her body at all. After being locked on by the beautiful woman's aura, Nangongguan felt as if her body wasn't listening to her, and she couldn't do anything. The beautiful woman didn't waste any time and directly said, "Take me to the Sacred Palace." Nangongguan couldn't resist at all. The beautiful woman gave Nangongguan a feeling that was even more terrifying than an Ancestor Realm expert. The two of them were simply not on the same level. As the number of Ancestor Realm experts in the Sacred Palace increased, Nangongguan naturally wasn't unfamiliar with them. However, the beautiful woman in front of her was clearly far stronger than an Ancestor Realm expert. Just a glance from her made Nangongguan feel as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. Nangongguan already had some guesses about the beautiful woman's identity, but she still asked, "Who are you?" The World Master of the Red Wind World, Dongfang Yun, who is also Dongfang Lin's mother. The beautiful woman directly replied without hiding anything. As expected, the person who had come was a World Master. Only a World Master could possess such shocking strength. But why had Dongfang Yin personally come to the Great Thousand World? Could it be that she was here to denounce Nangongguan? Because Dongfang Lin had gone missing in the Great Thousand World, Dongfang Yin had personally come to the Great Thousand World to denounce Nangongguan. Moreover, from the looks of it, she clearly didn't come with good intentions. However, in front of Dongfang Yun, Nangongguan couldn't resist at all. She had no choice but to bring Dongfang Yun to the sacred palace. However, along the way, Nangongguan was filled with uncertainty. This was because Dongfang Yun, the World Lord, had come in person. However, there was no World Lord in the Great Thousand World yet. Moreover, no one knew what was going on with Xiao Chun. If Dongfang Yun really came to denounce Nangongguan, who in the Great Thousand World could stop her? Nangongguan's heart was in a mess. While Nangongguan's thoughts were running wild, Dongfang Yun drove the spatial spirit boat and quickly arrived above the sacred palace. Dongfang Yun took a step forward and stood in the air, overlooking the entire sacred palace. At the same time, the Red Wind World's experts who had been staying in the sacred palace, the beautiful woman and the old woman, changed their expressions when they sensed Dongfang Yun's aura. They immediately appeared in front of Dongfang Yun and knelt in the air, respectfully calling out, "Your Majesty, this subject failed to protect the princess. Please punish this subject." Facing Dongfang Yun, the old woman and the beautiful woman were clearly very respectful. In response, Dongfang Yun looked at the two with a calm expression, clearly having no intention of replying. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2720. The old woman and the beautiful woman addressed Dongfang Yun as Your Majesty. This started from a situation of the Red Wind World. Dongfang Yun was the World Lord of the Red Wind World, and the Overlord of the Red Wind World was not a sect, but an empire. The Red Wind Empire was the overlord of the entire Red Wind World, and Dongfang Yun was the Empress of the Red Wind Empire. Dongfang Yun becoming the Empress of the Red Wind Empire and becoming the World Lord was indeed very strange, especially the experience of becoming the World Lord. Even in all the universes, there was probably no other person who could achieve this. In the past, Dongfang Yun was just the Empress of the Red Wind Empire, and her husband, who was the previous Emperor of the Red Wind Empire, was the World Lord of the Red Wind World. In other words, Dongfang Yun's origin power was obtained from her husband. There were many rumors about how Dongfang Yun obtained her husband's origin power in the Red Wind World. Some said that the previous emperor knew that he didn't have much time left, so he took the initiative to pass his origin power to Dongfang Yun, allowing her to become the World Lord. However, there was obviously one point in such rumors that couldn't be explained at all. Since she was already the World Lord, she was an immortal existence. How could her lifespan be exhausted? Therefore, this guess wasn't believed by most people. From this, there was a second guess, which most people thought was the most likely guess. That was, Dongfang Yun used some means to kill her husband and obtain the approval of the origin power. She forcibly obtained the Red Wind World's origin power from her husband. Dongfang Yun was a vicious person who killed her own husband. However, no matter which guess it was, Dongfang Yun didn't respond directly. Moreover, no matter how the world talked about her behind her back, it didn't change the fact that she was the World Lord of the Red Wind World and the Empress of the Red Wind Empire. Although she was a woman, after Dongfang Yun ascended the throne, she also showed great ability. At least, those who opposed her were easily dealt with by Dongfang Yun. In a short time, she controlled the situation of the entire Red Wind Empire and the Red Wind World and sat firmly on the position of the World Lord. Dongfang Yun didn't respond immediately. She waited until the rest of the Red Wind World's experts appeared and knelt respectfully before she waved her hand across the air. Immediately, the old woman and the beautiful woman were sent flying. Dongfang Yun said indifferently, "It's good that you know you're wrong." As for the old woman and the beautiful woman who were sent flying by Dongfang Yun, they did not dare to show the slightest bit of dissatisfaction. They still knelt respectfully and said, "Your Majesty, please calm your anger. It is indeed us who should die." From beginning to end, Dong Fangyun's expression hadn't changed in the slightest. Nangong Guan frowned slightly as she watched the scene unfold before her eyes. At the same time, numerous sacred palace powerhouses appeared one after another. And Qin Shiru and women, Shuriyan, stood. Xin Yuanling took the initiative to speak. World Lord of the Red Wind World, have you come to the Great Thousand World to denounce us? Dong Fangyun's attitude had been unusually unyielding since she entered the Great Thousand World. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that she barged in. Therefore, Xin Yuanling's tone wasn't too good. However, Dong Fangyun didn't care. My daughter went missing and was kidnapped in your Great Thousand World. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Also, is this how the Sacred Palace treats its guests? I've come personally, but why don't I see the Sacred Palace Master? With Dong Fangyun's eyesight, she naturally saw that Xin Yuanling and the others were ancestor stage experts. In other words, the World Lord of the Great Thousand World hadn't appeared yet. This made Dong Fangyun's heart even colder. Xin Yuanling calmly explained, the Palace Master is in closed-door cultivation. It's not convenient for her to receive guests for the time being. Closed-door cultivation? Does that mean I won't be able to see the Sacred Palace Master this time? Dong Fangyun snorted coldly. Dong Fangyun had indeed come with some anger, but she wanted to discuss the matter of the Black Wheel World with the Great Thousand World. However, it was obvious that she wasn't talking to Xin Yuanling and the others, but to Xiao Chun. However, Xiao Chun hadn't appeared until now. Dong Fangyun felt that she was being looked down upon. She swept her gaze across Xin Yuanling and the others one by one. Then her tone gradually turned cold. Since you're not willing to come out, I'll personally invite you. With that, Dong Fangyun prepared to attack. Seeing this, Xin Yuanling and the others' faces darkened. Although Dong Fangyun was a world lord, they could not allow her to act presumptuously in the sacred palace. Xin Yuanling immediately said coldly, "Do you really intend to do this?" Noisy. Clearly, Dong Fangyun was no longer in the mood to waste time with Xin Yuanling and the others. She softly spat out 2 words, and an aura arose from her body. Last 3 breaths. If your sacred palace master doesn't appear, I'll raise this place to the ground. Dong Fangyun was being overbearing. In response, Xin Yuanling and the others were furious, but their faces were incomparably solemn. A world lord wasn't someone they could contend with. Who would have thought that Dong Fangyun would be so overbearing? And there was still no news from Xiao Chun. Could it be that she wanted the sacred palace to bow its head? This was obviously not what everyone wanted to see. As the overlord of the Great Thousand World, if the sacred palace bowed its head to Dong Fangyun, wouldn't that mean that the Great Thousand World was inferior to the Red Wind World? Xin Yuanling and the others obviously couldn't do such a thing, but Dong Fangyun didn't give them too much time to think. After 3 breaths, she was ready to act, but at that moment, an indifferent voice sounded. If you dare touch a blade of grass or a tree of my sacred palace, I guarantee that your Red Wind World will be plunged into misery and suffering. As the voice sounded, a white-clothed figure appeared in front of Dong Fangyun. It was none other than Xiao Chun, who had been in closed-door cultivation for almost 100 years. Xiao Chun's sudden appearance stunned everyone. Dong Fangyun immediately stopped what she was doing and stared at Xiao Chun with her beautiful eyes. I've always felt that the Great Thousand World was a little strange, but I've never heard of it. It turns out that it's just a newly born world lord. Judging from your appearance, you must have just become a world lord, and your strength hasn't stabilized yet. Are you sure you can fight against me? You'll know if you try, Xiao Chun replied without backing down. Seeking collection, seeking monthly votes, seeking recommendations. Chapter 27-21. Before arriving at the Great Wide World, Dong Fangyun felt that the Great Wide World was a little strange. After all, it was a world that he had never heard of, and no one had seen the world lord of this world. Before arriving at the Great Wide World, Dong Fangyun felt that the Great Wide World was a little strange. After all, it was a world that he had never heard of, and no one had seen the world lord of this world. The old woman and the beautiful woman had been in the great wide world for so long, but they had not seen the world lord. This naturally made the beautiful woman feel strange. Moreover, with the beautiful woman's eyesight, she knew at first glance that Xiao Chun was indeed the world lord of the great wide world, but he had just become the world lord of the great wide world. In other words, Xiao Chun had just finished refining the origin power not long ago, and his cultivation base had increased from the ancestor realm to several times that of a world lord. He probably could not control his skyrocketing power perfectly. That was why Dongfang Yin said such words. Unfortunately, Xiao Qin's attitude was even tougher than Dongfang Yun's. Hearing this, a cold light flashed in Dongfang Yun's eyes. Facing Dongfang Yun's gaze, Xiao Qin did not dodge at all and looked back at him. "Are you threatening me?" "No, I'm just stating the truth," Xiao Qin replied indifferently. Along with their voices, the atmosphere in the field gradually became tense. The two world lords were tit for tat, and it seemed that they had the intention to attack. In fact, Xiao Chun had finished refining the origin power a few months ago and had been staying in the land of origin in closed-door cultivation to stabilize his cultivation base. After all, after refining the power of the origin, Xiao Qin's cultivation base had directly broken through from the lower level of the progenitor realm to the realm of the Lord of the World in one go. Such a large increase naturally required time to adapt and stabilize. However, after sensing Dongfang Yun's appearance, Xiao Qin had no choice but to come out of closed-door cultivation in advance. Although he did not know what had happened in the great wide world, Xiao Qin obviously could not stand by and watch an unfamiliar world lord enter the great wide world. If a world lord entered another universe, anyone would most likely stop it. Therefore, Xiao Qin had no choice but to come out of closed-door cultivation in advance. What Dongfang Yin said was true. With Xiao Qin's current strength, there was indeed a big gap between him and the veteran world lords. But so what? It was not surprising that Xiao Qin would admit defeat. If you want to fight, then let's fight. You, Dongfang Yin, are indeed a veteran world master. But do you really have the confidence to take me down? Seeing that Xiao Qin was not backing down at all, Dongfang Yin did not choose to attack directly. Because both of them were world lords, if they really fought, Dongfang Yin could not guarantee that the final result would be as he imagined. There was no problem suppressing Xiao Qin, but Dongfang Yin did not have much confidence in defeating or even killing Xiao Qin. Furthermore, this was the territory of the Holy Palace. She did not say anything, but once she made a move, the beautiful woman, the old woman, and the others would not be able to walk out of the vast thousand domains. Moreover, Dongfang Yun's main purpose in coming here this time was to deal with the Black Wheel world. It was obviously unwise to become enemies with the great wide world. Previously, Dongfang Yin was a little unhappy because Xiao Qin had not appeared for a long time, but now that Xiao Qin had appeared, Dongfang Yin could no longer press on. Dongfang Yin took the initiative to retract his aura and looked at Xiao Qin. "I have no intention of becoming enemies with the Sacred Palace. Everything is for the sake of the child. Why don't we sit down and have a chat?" Dongfang Yin took the initiative to suggest sitting down to discuss the Black Wheel world, but Xiao Qin said indifferently, "We can talk about it tomorrow. Big brother, make arrangements for them." Xiao Qin still had no idea what had happened during his closed-door training. Now was definitely not the time to discuss it. At the very least, he had to wait until Xiao Qin understood the whole story before making a decision. Dongfang Yin was a little displeased to see that Xiao Qin had rejected her without hesitation and wanted to wait until tomorrow to discuss the matter. However, Xiao Qin did not give her a chance to refute and prepare to leave. But before he left, Xiao Qin left behind a warning. "This is the Sacred Palace. If you really have no ill intentions, it's best not to do anything that could easily cause misunderstandings. The Sacred Palace treats our friends with sincerity, but we won't show any mercy to our enemies." With that, he left with Qin Shu, Hunter Flower Fairy, and the other girls, leaving the rest to Xin Yuanling. On the way back to his residence, Xiao Qin was most concerned about what had happened during his closed-door training. Qin Shu and the other girls were naturally very happy about Xiao Qin's return, but now was not the time to be happy. In the main hall, Qin Shiru told Xiao Chan in detail about the kidnapping of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, as well as the situation in the Red Wind world and the Black Wheel world. After hearing Qin Shiru's words, Xiao Chen learned that such a big thing had happened in the Vast Thousand world while he was in closed-door training. Even his two sons had been kidnapped and had now left the Vast Thousand world. Xiao Chen's eyes flashed with a cold light. The kidnapping of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao had undoubtedly crossed the line. However, now was not the time to be angry. After carefully thinking through Qin Shiru's words, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "So Yao and Lao were completely innocent victims. Aunt May's target has always been Dongfang Lin." "Yes, that's true. But now that Yao and Lao have been kidnapped, there's no point in talking about this," Hundred Flower Fairy replied. Regardless of whether it was an innocent disaster or not, things had already developed to this point. There was no point in talking about it anymore. The most important thing now was to think about how to rescue the two children. Hearing Hundred Flower Fairy's words, Xiao Chen nodded slightly. Longqing and Xiao Xiao had already gone to the Black Wheel world. He did not know what was going on there. So far, there had been no news from the two of them. However, Dongfang Yin had personally come here. It could be seen that she was also very anxious to rescue her daughter. In other words, Dongfang Yin intended to take advantage of this opportunity to join forces with the Vast Thousand world and take down the Black Wheel world in one fell swoop. After all, the Black Wheel world had always been a big problem for the Red Wind world. Dongfang Yin's thoughts were not difficult to guess, but Xiao Chen did not have a reason to refuse. Just as Xiao Chen was lost in thought, Xin Yuanling returned. Seeing Xin Yuanling stride into the main hall, Xiao Chen smiled and said, "Have you taken care of everything?" "Yes, everything is going well," Xin Yuanling replied. There was no need to do anything. Originally, the people of the Red Wind world had arranged accommodations in the Sacred Palace. Now that Dongfang Yin had come, she could directly live with the people of the Red Wind world. There was no need to make separate arrangements. Please add, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 27-22. Dongfang Yin didn't do anything out of line. After settling Dongfang Yin down, Xin Yuanling immediately rushed back. After exchanging a few words with Xiao Chen, Xin Yuanling asked expectantly, "Third brother, did you really succeed?" Dongfang Yin didn't do anything out of line. After settling Dongfang Yin down, Xin Yuanling immediately rushed back. After exchanging a few words with Xiao Chen, Xin Yuanling asked expectantly, "Third brother, did you really succeed?" Hearing this, Xiao Chen nodded affirmatively and replied, "Yes, it worked." Whether or not he could become the World Lord was extremely important to the entire Sacred Palace. After all, if he wasn't the World Lord, then the Sacred Palace's position as the Overlord of the Vast Thousand world would not be stable. This time, Xiao Chen had indeed lived up to everyone's expectations. He had successfully obtained the recognition of the origin energy, refined the origin energy of the Vast Thousand world, and became the World Lord of the Vast Thousand world. After receiving Xiao Chen's affirmative answer, Xin Yuanling also secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although he had always been very confident in Xiao Chen, before hearing the final answer, Xin Yuanling still felt uncertain. After all, this matter was too important. Next, Xin Yuanling also joined the discussion. Everyone's opinions on how to rescue Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were very unified. Judging from the current situation, if they wanted to rescue Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, the only way was to go to the Black Wheel world. There was no other choice, so everyone could only do this. However, after arriving at the Black Wheel world, what they should do was still up for discussion. Should they directly destroy the Black Wheel world, or only needed to rescue Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao? When the Black Wheel world was willing to release Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, then whether the Vast Thousand world would continue to ally with the Red Wind world or withdraw in time was a question that needed to be considered. In this regard, Xiao Chan gave an answer. If Dongfang Yin doesn't have any crooked ideas, it's not impossible to help her. According to what you said, the Black Wheel world has always been the mortal enemy of the Red Wind world, and this time, They actually unknowingly helped Yao and Lao. They are courting death. Xiao Chen didn't reject the idea of destroying the Black Wheel world. Of course, the premise was that Dongfang Yun didn't have any ideas that she shouldn't have, let alone think that the Sacred Palace would be willing to be her cannon fodder. If they could cooperate well, and the Thousand World would benefit in the end, then Xiao Chun didn't recommend helping. After all, Zhao's words of course. Of the way, of course. After all, he had come out of closed-door cultivation, and of course. Of the world had come of course. Let's talk about everything after I finish talking with Dongfang Yin tomorrow. By the way, Yao and Lao Er's life tablets haven't changed, right? In the end, Xiao Chun asked about the two brothers' life tablets. Although there was no way to know where the two brothers were now, it could be used to determine whether the two brothers were alive or not. As long as the life tablets weren't broken, it meant that the two brothers were still alive. Hearing this, a 100-flower fairy said, "There's no problem. They should still be alive for the time being." The life tablets were all normal, and the two brothers were still alive. Hearing this, Xiao Chen secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and then said, "If that's the case, then that's it. We'll talk about it after I finish talking with Dongfang Yin tomorrow. Also, get people to pay more attention to the life tablets of the two boys. If there's any movement, report to me immediately." The life tablets were the only way to determine whether the two little guys were still alive, so it was especially important to pay attention to the life tablets. After instructing these things, Xiao Chun went to visit his parents alone. They hadn't seen each other for almost 100 years, and the two elders must have missed him very much. As expected, after seeing Xiao Chun, Bai Ruyue's tears immediately fell. She pulled on Xiao Chun and asked about his well-being, but in the end, the topic shifted to Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Doggy Bai Ruyue and Xiao Chun were naturally very worried about their grandchildren being kidnapped. They asked Xiao Chun to rescue the two little guys safely. Regarding this, Xiao Chun naturally promised repeatedly. The two elders were worried sick about Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Seeing that the two of them were so worried, Xiao Chun comforted them and promised to bring them back safely. Only then did the two elders feel relieved. Xiao Chun stayed at his parents' place until late at night before returning to his residence. However, as soon as he entered the courtyard, Xiao Chun saw a figure standing in the courtyard. This person was none other than Tenzu of the Great Thousand World. As he said before, because of the birth of the Great Thousand World's World Master, Tenzu's cultivation had also broken through from the Emperor Realm to the Ancestor Realm. His aura was vigorous, and there wasn't the slightest bit of emptiness. Looking at Tenzu, Xiao Chun said with a smile, "It's so late. Did you come here specially to see me?" Xiao Chun was very familiar with Tenzu, so he asked softly. Hearing this, Tenzu said calmly, "I did come here specially to see you." Saying so, Tenzu directly knelt down deeply to Xiao Chun and cried out, "I said that as long as you become the World Master, I will be loyal to you. Now that you are the World Master of the Great Thousand World, from now on, I am willing to be at your disposal." Tenzu could only be loyal to the World Master, and Xiao Chun was now the World Master of the Great Thousand World, so there was no problem for Tenzu to be loyal to him. In this regard, Xiao Chun personally helped Tenzu up and said with a smile, not too surprised, "It's okay, there's no need for this." Tenzu's loyalty was naturally a good thing for Xiao Chun, and then the two chatted in the courtyard. On the other side, in the cave mansion where the people of the Red Wind world lived, it was already late at night, but in the main hall, Dongfang Yin, the old woman, and the beautiful woman were still sitting together. Dongfang Yin sat on the main seat, and the old woman asked hesitantly, "Your Majesty, do you really intend to use this opportunity to destroy the Black Wheel world in one fell swoop?" The old woman obviously already knew Dongfang Yin's thoughts, and in this regard, Dongfang Yin said in a deep voice, "The Black Wheel world has always been a threat to us, and there are constant battles all year round. Now that we have this opportunity, we naturally have to seize it." Speaking of this, Dongfang Yin paused slightly, and then the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. In fact, it was that idiot who gave us this opportunity. If she didn't touch Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, it would indeed be difficult for us to unite with the Great Thousand World, but now it has given us a chance. The idiot that Dong Fangyan mentioned was obviously Aunt Mei. Aunt Mei kidnapped Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, perhaps because she felt that the two brothers would be of some use in the future, but she did not realize that this was equivalent to pushing the Great Thousand World toward the Red Wind World, and Dong Fangyan also intended to use this opportunity to unite with the Great Thousand World to destroy the Black Wheel World in one fell swoop. This was also the reason why Dong Fangyan personally came to the Great Thousand World this time. Hearing this, the old woman at the side was somewhat worried. But Your Majesty, in this case, the princess's safety, the old woman was worried about Dong Fanglin's safety. After all, she was still in the hands of the Black Wheel World, and they had to be careful of the other party's desperate actions. Chapter 27-23. The old woman was worried about Dong Fanglin's safety. After all, she was currently in the hands of the Black Wheel World. If Dong Fangyan pushed too hard, Dong Fanglin might be in danger. However, Dong Fangyan didn't care about this and smiled. Don't worry, I know Ancestor Hei's character. He won't be so impulsive. As an old rival, Dong Fangyan naturally knew Ancestor Hei very well. He was a cunning old fox and wouldn't do anything impulsive. Moreover, before he really took action, he had to think of a way to save the three little guys first. Otherwise, Xiaochen wouldn't agree. After a night of silence, Xiaochen really did find Dong Fangyan the next day. The two began to negotiate in Dong Fangyan's cave dwelling. Xiaochen had already guessed Dong Fangyan's purpose for coming. He dismissed everyone else, leaving only Xiaochen and Dong Fangyan in the courtyard. Their eyes met, and Xiaochen was the first to speak. I think I've already guessed your purpose for coming. There's no need to beat around the bush. What do you plan to do? Xiaochen didn't beat around the bush and asked bluntly. Dong Fangyan had come to the Great Thousand World in person, so he definitely wanted to cooperate with the Sacred Palace. Xiaochen didn't directly refuse. There was no problem in cooperating, but the two of them still needed to discuss the specifics of the cooperation. Hearing Xiaochen's words, Dong Fangyan was not surprised. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In that case, I'll be frank. Let's cooperate and take this opportunity to directly destroy the Black Wheel World. Destroying a world isn't easy. Moreover, my two sons are still in their hands, Xiaochen replied. The cooperation between the Great Thousand World and the Red Wind World did indeed have a chance to destroy the Black Wheel World. Even if they couldn't destroy it, they could at least cripple it. However, after this cooperation, what benefits would the Great Thousand World, or the Sacred Palace, obtain? Also, how would the safety of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao be guaranteed? Xiaochen naturally couldn't gamble with his son's safety. Therefore, before they attacked the Black Wheel World, it was necessary to rescue Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Otherwise, everything would be empty talk. Xiaochen's answer was the same as Dong Fangyan's. If they wanted to cooperate, the first thing they had to rescue Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Only then could Xiaochen feel at ease cooperating with the Red Wind World. Dong Fangyan had already thought of a plan. Of course, after all, my daughter is also in their hands. Before we formally cooperate, I can cooperate with you to rescue the three little guys first. Of course, my Red Wind World will fully contribute to this operation, while the Great Thousand World only needs you to take action. Consider it a little sincerity from me. Before they officially attacked the Black Wheel World, Dong Fangyan would rescue the three little guys, while the experts of the Black Wheel World would be held back by the people of the Red Wind World. Xiaochen only needed to act according to the circumstances and rescue the three little guys. It had seemed like a very good choice. After all, the Sacred Palace didn't need to pay anything. They only needed Xiaochen to personally make a trip to the Black Wheel World. Moreover, the experts of the Black Wheel World would be held back by the people of the Red Wind World. Xiaochen only needed to rescue the people of the Black Wheel World. It was indeed a great deal of sincerity. Xiaochen calmly looked at Dong Fangyan. This woman was indeed not simple. She knew what he was thinking and was very willing to do so. Xiao Chen had no reason to refuse Dongfang Yun's proposal. The main force was the Red Wind world, and all he needed to do was to rescue the people. 3800 meeting Xiao Chen's gaze. Dongfang Yun said with a faint smile, "How about it? You won't refuse this proposal, right?" "Indeed, I won't, because there's no reason to refuse. But there's another question. What benefits will the Sacred Palace get after we join forces?" Xiao Chen smiled. Since they wanted to cooperate, there must be benefits. Dealing with the Black Wheel world wasn't an easy task. If there were no benefits at all, Xiao Chen probably wouldn't be willing. Xiao Chen's words were also within Dongfang Yun's expectations. After all, this was something that couldn't be avoided. If there were no benefits, who would be so bored as to provoke the experts of other universes? Roping in the vast thousand worlds was to get rid of the Black Wheel world and get rid of the big problem in her heart. But at the same time, she must give the Sacred Palace enough benefits. Otherwise, Xiao Chen wouldn't agree. Without any hesitation, Dongfang Yun said straightforwardly, "How about we split the harvest 50-50? 50-50. No matter what the final result was, whether it was directly destroying the Black Wheel world or only crippling it, half of the final harvest would belong to the Sacred Palace." Dongfang Yun wasn't a person who bargained. The conditions she offered were obviously her bottom line, and there was no room for negotiation. 50-50 was already a very good condition. It didn't make sense for the Sacred Palace to take the biggest share. So, after hearing Dongfang Yun's words, Xiao Chen also said straightforwardly, "Okay, then I wish us a happy cooperation." The two world lords reached a consensus without a hitch. But before that, as mentioned at the beginning, the Red Wind world was responsible for rescuing Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin. After reaching a successful cooperation, Dongfang Yun looked at Xiao Chen and said, "In that case, let's set off as soon as possible. Your people can set off later, but you and I should set off immediately. The most important thing is to rescue them first." The vast thousand worlds were far away from the Black Wheel world, but the Red Wind world was right next to it. So, Dongfang Yun meant that Xiao Chen should follow her to the Black Wheel world first. As for the other experts of the Sacred Palace, they could arrive later. Anyway, the mission of rescuing the three little guys mainly depended on the Red Wind world. Xiao Chen didn't refuse and nodded in agreement. Then, the two planned to set off that day. First, they went home and told Qin Shiru and the other girls the truth. Then, they found Xin Yuan Ling and asked him to be responsible for selecting people. Then, they rushed to the Black Wheel world, ready to cooperate with the Red Wind world to take down the Black Wheel world together. Xiao Chen was naturally relieved to leave these matters to Xin Yuan Ling. After instructing these matters, Xiao Chen and Dongfang Yun left the vast thousand worlds together in the afternoon. Of course, the experts of the Red Wind world were also with them, including the old woman and the beautiful woman. Riding the spatial spirit boat of the Red Wind world, the group rushed to the Black Wheel world at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, Xin Yuan Ling also began to prepare to set off for the Black Wheel world. Chapter 27-24. The cooperation with the Red Wind world this time was naturally not just for show. Moreover, the Black Wheel world was not weak, so Xin Yuan Ling needed to prepare for many things in advance. The cooperation with the Red Wind world this time was naturally not just for show. Moreover, the Black Wheel world was not weak, so Xin Yuan Ling needed to prepare for many things in advance. At the same time, almost all the experts of the Sacred Palace had been mobilized for the attack on the Black Wheel world, leaving only a small number of people to guard the home. Therefore, many problems had to be prepared in advance. As a result, Xin Yuan Ling naturally had to set off a few days later. However, this did not matter, because according to the agreement between Xiao Chen and Dongfang Yun, the experts of the Sacred Palace were supposed to arrive later. Dongfang Yun and Xiao Chen were the first to rescue the three little guys. The spatial spirit boat soon entered the black hole and left the vast thousand world. On the other side, Aunt May, who had escaped from the vast thousand world for several days, finally arrived at the Black Wheel world with Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin. Through the black hole of the Black Wheel world, the four successfully arrived. Just as they were about to leave, they were taken away by the experts of the Black Wheel world. They were taken all the way to the largest continent of the Black Wheel world. This was the headquarters of the Black Wheel sect, the overlord of the Black Wheel world. Dongfang Lin was no stranger to the Black Wheel world. After all, it was the sworn enemy of the Red Wind world. However, the brothers Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao did not know much about the Black Wheel world. Seeing that they were about to enter the Black Wheel sect, Xiao Yao had been thinking about how to support them along the way. Escaping was definitely out of the question. With his, Xiao Lao's, and Dongfang Lin's cultivation, it was obviously impossible and unrealistic to escape from the Black Wheel sect, which was guarded by many experts. Therefore, from the beginning to the end, Xiao Yao had been thinking about how to save his life and let the Black Wheel sect realize his and Xiao Lao's value and not kill the two brothers for the time being. This was the most important thing. There was no need to worry too much about Dongfang Lin's safety. After all, the Black Wheel sect's target was Dongfang Lin. They had spent so much effort to kidnap Dongfang Lin, so naturally, they would not kill her so easily. The most important thing was the safety of the two brothers. They were taken all the way to the dungeon of the Black Wheel sect. This was a separate microcosm without the slightest bit of spiritual energy. Obviously, it had been specially built. Moreover, there were individual cells in this microcosm. Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin were directly locked up in solitary confinement. Along the way, Xiao Yao also heard the conversation between Aunt May and several experts of the Black Wheel sect. Who are these two kids? Didn't Sect Master only ask you to bring Dongfang Lin back? They are the sons of the World Master of the Great Thousand World. Back then, we were together, so we brought them back together. If they are useless, we could just kill them. The son of the World Master of the Great Thousand World? It seems like I still have to report this matter to the Sect Master. The people of the Black Wheel sect obviously didn't attach much importance to Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. In this regard, Xiao Yao also knew that she couldn't just sit and wait for death. After being locked in the cell, Xiao Yao immediately spoke to Aunt May. I want to see your World Master. Hearing this, Aunt May and several ancestor experts of the Black Wheel sect turned around and looked at Xiao Yao with a playful expression. You want to see my sect master? Little thing, are you still not clear about the current situation? Of course I know. If you don't let me see your sect master, you will definitely regret it, Xiao Yao said with difficulty. He definitely had to see the World Master of the Black Wheel world. Otherwise, once the people of the Black Wheel sect thought that the two brothers were useless, the two of them would be in danger. Therefore, now, Xiao Yao had to show his usefulness and make the Black Wheel sect pay attention to him. Looking at Xiao Yao's slightly immature face, the experts of the Black Wheel sect found it funny. Then, they ignored him and turned to leave. This kid was a little interesting, but if he wanted to see their sect master, it would depend on whether the sect master was willing or not. Ignoring Xiao Yao, Aunt May, and the experts of the Black Wheel sect quickly left. Under the guidance of one of them, Aunt May quickly met the sect master of the Black Wheel sect, Ancestor He. In a black palace, Aunt May bowed respectfully to Ancestor He. Ancestor He, who was sitting on a main seat, was a short and skinny old man who looked like he would die at any moment. He looked like a person who would not live for long. However, in the Black Wheel world, no one dared to underestimate this skinny old man because he was the World Master of the Black Wheel world. His turbid eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. Facing Aunt May, Ancestor He's wrinkled face revealed a faint smile. You've worked hard this time. Well done. Sect Master, you're exaggerating. This is what I should do, Aunt May respectfully replied. I heard that in addition to Dongfang Lin, you also brought back two other people? Ancestor He asked. The people here are the sons of the World Master of the Great Thousand World. I thought they might come in handy, so I brought them back. The matter of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao naturally could not be hidden from Ancestor He. Regarding this, Ancestor He did not express his opinion and only remained silent for a moment. Seeing this, Aunt May continued, however, one of them said that he wanted to meet Sectmaster in person, but we ignored him. Xiao Yao wanted to meet Ancestor He in person. Hearing this, Ancestor He's eyes flashed with interest. This little guy was a little interesting. He was brought to the Black Wheel world, but not only was he not afraid, but he also wanted to meet him. Ancestor He naturally had not heard of the Great Thousand World and had never come into contact with it. However, since it had given birth to a world master, the strength of the Great Thousand World should not be too bad. After pondering for a moment, Ancestor He smiled and said, interesting little guy. All right, you can go and receive your reward. Have a good rest. Aunt May's contribution this time was not small, and Ancestor He naturally would not be stingy with his reward. As Aunt May left the hall, Ancestor He's figure also slowly disappeared. In the dungeon, outside Xiao Yao's cell, a skinny old man in black suddenly appeared outside the cell without any warning. Seeing the sudden appearance of the old man, Xiao Yao was stunned. However, she quickly reacted and asked doubtfully, "You are the world master of the Black Wheel world?" In the face of Xiao Yao's question, Ancestor He did not answer. Instead, he slowly took a step forward. Immediately after, his body was like liquid, directly passing through the hard cell and entering the cell. Such a strange method indeed stunned Xiao Yao. She had no idea how Ancestor He did it. In the face of the stunned Xiao Yao, Ancestor He said with a smile, just like a kind grandfather, "That's right, I'm the world master of the Black Wheel world. You can call me Ancestor He. I heard that you wanted to meet me. Why are you so surprised now that I am here?" Chapter 27-25. Ancestor He said with a smile. At this moment, he gave off a very amiable feeling, without the slightest hint of danger, just like an ordinary old man. Ancestor He said with a smile. At this moment, he gave off a very amiable feeling, without the slightest hint of danger, just like an ordinary old man. In this regard, Xiao Yao didn't dare to be careless. Looking at Ancestor He, who was close at hand, Xiao Yao knew very well that the person in front of her was the world lord of the Black Wheel world, an existence similar to her father. Forcing herself to calm down, Xiao Yao said, "Senior, how do you plan to deal with us brothers?" I haven't decided yet, but my target has always been Dongfang Lin. I don't really need you two brothers, and I usually discard things that are useless." While speaking, Ancestor He looked at Xiao Yao with a faint smile. The meaning behind these words was already very clear. Destroy them if they had no value. This was old He's intention. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yao was unable to ascertain whether these words were true or false. However, at this moment, preserving his life was the most important thing. Hence, Xiao Yao immediately opened his mouth and said, "Senior, this junior wants to live." Xiao Yao was very smart. She also knew that in the face of someone like Ancestor He, feigning civility was obviously useless. How could someone who could become the world lord of the universe be such a fool? Therefore, instead of trying to deceive him, it was better to tell the truth. Hearing Xiao Yao's words, as expected, the smile in Ancestor He's eyes deepened. It's human nature. No one didn't want to live, and Ancestor He believed what Xiao Yao said. In this regard, Xiao Yao continued, "I know what you mean, Senior, but our father is also a world lord like you. I think we brothers should be useful to you. Moreover, even if you spare our lives, it won't affect you at all. Therefore, I think you shouldn't kill us." "Little guy, you're very interesting." Hearing Xiao Yao's words, the smile on Ancestor He's face deepened. This was the first time Ancestor He had seen such an interesting little fellow. Even in the face of such a situation, he was still able to remain so calm. Even when facing him, his thoughts were still so clear. Although Xiao Yao's words didn't seem that brilliant to Ancestor He, it was precisely because of her straightforward words that Ancestor He was interested in. If Xiao Yao had feigned civility from the start, Ancestor He would have left long ago. He wouldn't have been interested in the life and death of the two brothers. It had to be said that Xiao Yao's strategy was very successful. At the very least, it had moved Ancestor He. After a pause, Ancestor Hay said with a smile, I originally had no intention of becoming enemies with the Great Thousand World, but now that you and your brother are in my hands, do you think that your father will still have a good impression of me? That's why you should spare our lives, Senior. Once you kill us, you'll truly become an irreconcilable enmity with my father, said Xiao Yao. Xiao Yao only wanted a chance to live. After he said that, Ancestor Hay pondered for a moment, then said with a smile, Interesting little fellow. You and your brother are safe for the time being. Without my orders, no one will hurt you. Rest assured and stay here. After a simple conversation with Xiao Yao, Ancestor Hay finally made a decision. In fact, this decision wasn't difficult to make because Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao didn't have anything else that Ancestor Hay was afraid of apart from their identities. And just as Xiao Yao said, no matter how Xiao Chan felt about him, as long as Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao weren't dead, there was still room to turn things around. If he killed the two brothers, it would truly be a matter of life and death. Moreover, if Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were alive, it wouldn't affect Ancestor Hay. Firstly, he didn't have to worry about the two brothers escaping. Secondly, he didn't have to worry about the two brothers causing any trouble. Therefore, it was obviously better to keep them alive than to kill them. Book hearing Ancestor Hay's words, Xiao Yao secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing this, Ancestor Hay smiled slightly and then disappeared from where he was, as if he had never been there. Ancestor Hay had a good impression of Xiao Yao. He was a great young man who would become a great person in the future. Finally, their lives were saved for the time being. Next, they could only wait for their father's rescue. After all, with the strength of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, it was impossible for them to escape from the Black Wheel sect. It was already very difficult to barely keep their lives. This was also the limit of what Xiao Yao could do. After being imprisoned in the Black Wheel sect for several days, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao didn't encounter any danger. Ancestor Hay also kept his promise and didn't intend to kill the two. Of course, this might only be temporary. As for Dongfang Lin, there was no need to worry. A few days after the three were imprisoned in the Black Wheel sect, a spatial spirit boat slowly stopped outside the spatial passage leading to the Black Wheel sect. Xiao Chun and Dongfang Yun stood on the deck and calmly looked at the spatial black hole in front of them. This is the black hole leading to the Black Wheel world. Yes, how is it? Do you have any plans? Dongfang Yun smiled. Hearing Dongfang Yun's words, Xiao Chun turned to look at her and said with a calm expression, Don't forget what you said. You are the leader of the rescue mission from the Red Wind world. I'm only responsible for saving people. Xiao Chun came alone and was responsible for attracting the experts from the Black Wheel world. Obviously, he had handed the task of attracting experts from the Black Wheel world to the Red Wind world. Dongfang Yin smiled and didn't say anything. This guy was as shrewd as ever. She couldn't take advantage of him at all. Xiao Chun paused and then asked, How long will it take for your people to arrive? 1 day at most, Dongfang Yin replied. They would arrive in 1 day. In this regard, Xiao Chun nodded and said, Then we will start tomorrow. There was still 1 more day before the cultivators from the Red Wind world would arrive. Xiao Chun did not say anything else. After saying that, he returned to his cabin. Looking at Xiao Chun's back, Dongfang Yin smiled. No one knew what she was thinking. Although the two sides had a cooperative relationship, it was actually not stable. To put it bluntly, Xiao Chun's vigilance against her had never weakened. Along the way, Xiao Chun had been deliberately guarding against Dongfang Yin. Dongfang Yin could clearly feel this, but at the same time, Dongfang Yin was also guarding against Xiao Chun. After all, with the relationship between the two sides, it was indeed impossible to achieve 100% trust. To be able to maintain such a delicate balance was already very difficult. What a cautious man, Dongfang Yin said with a smile. Dongfang Yin took out a voice transmission talisman and directly contacted the experts from the Red Wind world, asking them to come as soon as possible. In order to make Xiao Chun agree to cooperate, saving people was the first and most crucial step. Chapter 27-26. In the matter of saving people, Dongfang Yin knew that he couldn't play any tricks. Otherwise, once Xiao Chen found out, the cooperation between the two sides would probably be directly ruined. Besides, his daughter Dongfang Lin was also in the hands of Ancestor He. Dongfang Yin naturally wouldn't joke about his daughter's safety. No matter what the people of the Red Wind world said about Dongfang Yun murdering her husband and snatching the origin energy, Dongfang Yun absolutely loved her daughter Dongfang Lin. There was no doubt about this. Therefore, no matter how one looked at it, it was impossible for Dongfang Yun to make a fuss about this matter. The experts of the Red Wind world rushed to the black hole entrance of the Black Wheel world as soon as possible. On the other side, Xiao Chun didn't stay idle. After returning to his room, Xiao Chun took out a formation compass. When the formation was activated, Longqing's phantom appeared in front of Xiao Chun. Seeing Xiao Chun, Longqing's face suddenly revealed a smile. "Third brother, you've arrived?" "Yes." At the same time as they set off, Xiao Chun had already contacted Longqing and told her that he and Dongfang Yin had come to the Black Wheel world to rescue Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. At this time, hearing Longqing's words, Xiao Chun nodded and replied. Then, he asked about the situation of the Black Wheel world. "How's the situation on your side? Although we successfully sneaked into the Black Wheel world, we can't enter the Black Wheel sect. I heard some news that Yao and Lao, who should be imprisoned in the Black Wheel sect at this time. Well, don't act rashly for the time being. Wait for my side to make a move, then we'll act together." It wasn't easy for Longqing and Xiao Xiao to sneak into the Black Wheel world. However, it was definitely not easy for them to sneak into the Black Wheel sect. Even though the two of them were progenitor realm experts, there wasn't much of a chance. Let alone Longqing. Even Xiao Chun would find it difficult to sneak into the Black Wheel sect undetected. Therefore, Xiao Chun told Longqing not to act rashly and to wait for him to make his move. Then, Longqing would find an opportunity to cooperate with him. After briefly instructing Longqing, the two of them ended the call. Next, Xiao Chun patiently waited for the arrival of the powerhouses from the Red Wind world. According to Xiao Chun and Dongfang Yun's plan, this rescue operation was not complicated. First, Dongfang Yun would lead the experts of the Red Wind world to directly invade the Black Wheel world and stall the experts of the Black Wheel sect. Meanwhile, Xiao Chun would hide in the dark and take advantage of the chaos to sneak into the Black Wheel sect. He would find an opportunity to rescue Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin. Once he succeeded, he would immediately retreat. It was a very simple plan, but it was also the most effective one. Even if the people of the Black Wheel sect found out that something was wrong, they had no way to stop it, because they couldn't ignore the experts of the Red Wind world. It seemed to be a simple plan, but the most important thing was whether Dongfang Yun really wanted to cooperate with him to rescue the three little guys. As long as there was no problem on Dongfang Yun's side, there would basically be no accidents. Closing his eyes and adjusting his breathing, Xiao Chun had no reason to give up no matter what Dongfang Yun thought. A day passed quickly, and in less than a day, more than a dozen Red Wind world starships and spatial spirit boats appeared in front of Xiao Chun. The people on the starships were all experts of the Red Wind world. With the arrival of the experts of the Red Wind world, Dongfang Yin also found Xiao Chun immediately and smiled at Xiao Chun. "How is it? When do we start?" "The sooner the better, to avoid any undue delay." Hearing this, Xiao Chun faintly replied, "It was fate, right?" "Of course, the sooner the better. After all, every minute delayed meant one more minute of danger for Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao." Although he could confirm that the two brothers were still alive through the life cards, Xiao Chun didn't know the current situation of the two brothers. Seeing that Xiao Chun didn't want to delay, Dongfang Yin nodded slightly, then said with a smile, "Then I will leave my daughter to you. Don't let her get hurt." Hearing Dongfang Yun's words, Xiao Chun gave him a deep look, then said calmly, "As long as you don't drop the ball, I will never guarantee your daughter's safety. You can rest assured about this. Even if I want to do something, I won't joke with my daughter's life." Hearing this, Dongfang Yun said with certainty. Knowing that Xiao Chun was afraid of him playing tricks, Dongfang Yun made a guarantee. Hearing this, Xiao Chun nodded and didn't say anything more. Soon, Dongfang Yun began to act. Xiao Chun left the spatial spirit boat alone and didn't participate in the following battle. Xiao Chen's task was to take advantage of the chaos, to sneak into the Black Wheel sect. With the departure of Xiao Chun, Dongfang Yun led a group of experts from the Red Wind world and entered the black hole of the Black Wheel world without concealing their whereabouts. Dongfang Yun's movements naturally couldn't be hidden from Ancestor He. When Dongfang Yun and the experts of the Red Wind world appeared, Ancestor He had already received the news. In the main hall of the Black Wheel sect, Ancestor He sat on the main seat, listening to the report of the people below. A sneer appeared on his face. This woman is still so impatient. Coming here with great fanfare. Does she want to fight to the death with me? He didn't seem to be worried about Dongfang Yun's attack. However, since Dongfang Yun had led people to attack, Ancestor He naturally couldn't remain indifferent. He immediately led the experts of the Black Wheel sect to the black hole. The black hole of the Black Wheel world was different from that of the vast Thousand Worlds. It was very close to the Black Wheel sect. This was probably intentional by Ancestor He, because in this way, the Black Wheel sect could react in the shortest time and respond to anyone who entered the black hole. Before Dongfang Yun sailed out of the black hole, the experts of the Black Wheel sect were already on standby under the leadership of Ancestor He. Hundreds of starships and spatial spirit boats of the Black Wheel sect directly surrounded the exit of the black hole. Ancestor He and the experts of the Black Wheel sect stood on the edge of the black hole, waiting for the appearance of Dongfang Yun and the experts of the Red Wind world. They didn't have to wait for too long. Soon, Dongfang Yun and the experts of the Red Wind world sailed out of the black hole. Standing on the deck, Dongfang Yun sneered when he saw Ancestor He, who had been waiting for a long time. "Old He, you're really fast. How about it? Shouldn't you let my daughter go?" "Haha, don't you think you're too naive? Have you ever seen someone spit out something that has entered my mouth?" Ancestor He sneered. In this regard, Dongfang Yun didn't say any more nonsense. He didn't have much hope in the first place. He also knew that it was impossible for Ancestor He to let Dongfang Lin go. In response, Dongfang Yun shouted coldly, "In that case, there's nothing more to say. Attack, kill." Chapter 27:27. As soon as Dongfang Yun's voice fell, the experts of the Red Wind world launched an attack. In this regard, the people of the Black Wheel world naturally would not allow themselves to be captured without putting up a fight. At the same time, Dongfang Yun did not remain idle. After the battle broke out, Dongfang Yun also took the initiative to attack Ancestor He. In this battle, Dongfang Yun's purpose was not to win or lose, but to delay Ancestor He, so as to create an opportunity for Xiao Chun to sneak into the Black Wheel sect and rescue Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin. In the face of Dongfang Yun's attack, Ancestor He naturally did not dare to be careless. After all, the opponent was also a world lord, and his strength should not be underestimated. The battle between the two sides directly broke out, but in the midst of the fierce battle, no one discovered that Xiao Chun had taken advantage of the chaos to hide his figure and directly tore through the void to enter the Black Wheel world. No one found any trace of Xiao Chun, including Ancestor He. After all, most of Ancestor He's energy was used to deal with Dongfang Yun at this time. In addition, he was unprepared, so it was naturally difficult to detect the existence of Xiao Chun. Smoothly passing through the battlefield and entering the Black Wheel world, Xiao Chun did not waste time and went straight to the Black Wheel sect. Although Dongfang Yun had delayed Ancestor He and many experts of the Black Wheel sect, time was still very tight. After successfully entering the Black Wheel world, Xiao Chun contacted Long Qing and Xiao Xiao. "Second sister, you and Xiao Xiao will support me outside the Black Wheel sect." He did not let Long Qing and Xiao Xiao follow him. After all, although their cultivation had reached the Ancestor realm, compared to 3 people, it was obviously more convenient for Xiao Chun to go alone. After receiving Xiao Chun's message, Long Qing quickly replied and rushed outside the Black Wheel sect with Xiao Xiao, ready to support Xiao Chun at any time. It was unknown how many experts there were in the Black Wheel sect at this time, but even if there were, the number should not be too many. More people were taken to the black hole by Ancestor He to deal with the attack of Dongfang Yun and the experts of the Red Wind world. Moreover, as long as Ancestor He was not there, basically no one could stop Xiao Chun, not even the Ancestor Realm Masters. Soon, he arrived at the Black Wheel sect. Xiao Chun was too lazy to hide, so he directly spread out his soul and began to search for the whereabouts of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. His soul enveloping the entire Black Wheel sect, and Xiao Lao and S soul enveloped the entire Black Wheel sect and naturally attracted the attention of the Black Wheel sect and the Ancestor Realm Masters of the Heavens. Hei's ancestor, He. This Ancestor Realm Master should be the one left behind by Ancestor He to guard the Black Wheel sect. With his appearance, Emperor Realm Masters of the Black Wheel sect also appeared one after another, and soon surrounded Xiao Chun. However, Xiao Chun did not change his expression in the slightest. At this moment, Xiao Chun also noticed the location of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. After confirming their approximate location, a faint smile appeared on Xiao Chun's face. Glancing lightly at the Ancestor Realm Master of the Black Wheel sect, Xiao Chun did not bother to talk nonsense with him and directly chose to attack. Taking a step forward, his figure instantly disappeared on the spot. Seeing Xiao Chun's action, the Ancestor Realm Master, who was originally aggressive, suddenly changed his expression. But before he could react, Xiao Chun had already thrown out a punch. Chasing one, the fist went straight for the Ancestor Realm Master's chest. He then tried his best to defend himself, but unfortunately, in the face of Xiao Chun's powerful strength, this Ancestor Realm Master did not have the slightest strength to fight back and was directly blasted away. Originally, this expert had tried his best to put up a defense, but in front of Xiao Chun, it was as if it existed in vain. Seeing that this progenitor realm expert could not even block a single punch from Xiao Chun, many experts of the Black Wheel sect present were dumbfounded. One must know that this was an Ancestor Realm Master. How could he be defeated by a single punch like this? It was completely illogical. Only the Ancestor Realm Master had a grave look on his face as he looked at Xiao Chun in disbelief. World Lord, who are you? From the brief exchange of blows just now, this Ancestor Realm Master could already be sure that Xiao Chun was definitely a World Lord. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to have such strong strength. As an Ancestor Realm Master, he could not even take a single punch from him. A World Lord had inexplicably arrived in the Black Wheel world. Moreover, don't forget that Ancestor He was still fighting fiercely with Dongfang Yun. In other words, two World Lords had arrived in the Black Wheel world at the same time. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? Dongfang Yun had just appeared, and Xiao Chun had also appeared. The two World Lords had appeared one after the other. If one said that there was no connection between them, probably even a fool would not believe it. They were shocked by Xiao Chun's strength and identity. Two World Lords represented two universes behind them. Now, the purpose of Xiao Chun's arrival was still unclear. But no matter what, it was not good news for the Black Wheel world. Hearing the words of this Ancestor Realm Master, Xiao Chun just smiled coldly and said, "You have captured my son, and now you're asking me who I am?" Hearing this Ancestor Realm Master quickly guessed Xiao Chun's identity. Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. The two boys were captured by Aunt May. He had long heard that the father of these two boys was also a World Lord. At first, everyone did not take it seriously, but now it seemed that kidnapping those two boys had actually caused a big disaster. Originally, they only needed to deal with Dongfang Yun and the Red Wind world, but now Xiao Chun and the atmospheric world had also joined in. The reason was that they had kidnapped their sons. For a time, the situation in the Black Wheel world had become somewhat dangerous. However, Xiao Chun obviously did not care what this Ancestor Realm Master was thinking. As soon as his voice fell, Xiao Chun displayed his sword domain and defeated the Black Wheel sect masters who surrounded him in an instant. Without the slightest intention to continue fighting, Xiao Chun smoothly broke through the obstruction of these Black Wheel sect masters. He went straight to the dungeon where Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were imprisoned. With the appearance of Xiao Chun, the entire Black Wheel sect was in a mess. Along the way, disciples and experts of the Black Wheel sect were constantly blocking Xiao Chen's path. Unfortunately, in the face of these people's obstruction, Xiao Chun seemed to be in an unstoppable state. No one could stop Xiao Chen's advance. In the dungeon, the outside world was in a mess, and a group of disciples of the Black Wheel sect had also arrived at the dungeon. Obviously, they wanted to transfer Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin in advance. The people of the Black Wheel sect were not stupid. Knowing that they were no match for Xiao Chun, the best choice was to transfer Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao in advance. As long as Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were still in their hands, they could at least make Xiao Chun hesitate and act as a deterrent to a certain extent. Chapter 27-28. A group of experts and disciples of the Black Wheel sect rushed into the dungeon and went straight to the cell of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. A group of experts and disciples of the Black Wheel sect rushed into the dungeon and went straight to the cell of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Looking at the group of people who suddenly appeared outside her cell, Xiao Yao was stunned. Then, as if she had guessed something, the corners of her mouth unconsciously revealed a faint smile. "You brat, how can you still smile?" Looking at the smile on Xiao Yao's face, the leading expert shouted coldly. It was because of these two brats that the Black Wheel sect suffered heavy casualties. It should be known that Xiao Chun had killed many experts and disciples of the Black Wheel sect along the way. However, in the face of the angry shout of the Black Wheel sect expert, Xiao Yao just smiled and said, "What's there to smile about? What's there to not laugh about? It should be my father." Looking at the panicked expressions of the people of the Black Wheel sect, Xiao Yao guessed that her father must have come. Otherwise, the people of the Black Wheel sect wouldn't be so flustered. In response, the face of the expert of the Black Wheel sect grew gloomier. "So what? As long as you two brats are in our hands, what can your father do?" While speaking, Xiao Lao had been forcibly taken out of the cell by the people of the Black Wheel sect. When they arrived outside Xiao Yao's cell, Xiao Lao angrily scolded, "Kill me if you can. If I blink, I'm your grandson." Xiao Lao had been nursing a belly full of anger during this period of time. Now that he saw the people of the Black Wheel sect, he naturally didn't have the slightest bit of a pleasant expression. If his cultivation hadn't been sealed, given Xiao Lao's character, he would have already fought with his life. However, after hearing his words, one of the disciples of the Black Wheel sect punched Xiao Lao in the stomach. Xiao Lao was in so much pain that a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Even so, Xiao Lao clenched his teeth and didn't make a sound. It could be said that the people of the Black Wheel sect hated the two brothers, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, because it was because of them that they had attracted that fiend, Xiao Chun. Soon, Xiao Yao's door was opened. Seeing Xiao Lao being beaten up, Xiao Yao said with a pale face, "I advise you to think about yourselves first." As soon as Xiao Yao finished speaking, a terrifying aura instantly descended. At the same time, the terrifying power of the sword domain directly enveloped everyone present. When the sword domain appeared, the smile on Xiao Yao's face became even brighter because he knew that his father had come. As expected, as soon as the aura and the sword domain appeared, Xiao Chen's figure appeared out of thin air in front of everyone. Looking at Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, who were being controlled by the people of the Black Wheel sect, the cold light in Xiao Chen's eyes became even more vigorous. When the leading expert of the Black Wheel sect saw Xiao Chen appear, he said in a cold voice, "Don't move. If you dare move, I will kill them." However, the threat of this expert of the Black Wheel sect didn't have the slightest effect, because as soon as he finished speaking, countless sword chi appeared from all directions. He didn't even have time to react before he was killed. This expert of the Black Wheel sect was only at the level of the End Realm. Such a cultivation was really not enough in front of a world lord. He couldn't even pose a threat. Even if Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were in his hands, Xiao Chun had 100 ways to kill him before he could make a move. Therefore, Xiao Chun didn't have the intention to pay attention to his threat. As the leading expert was killed, the faces of the other disciples of the Black Wheel sect turned ashen. However, Xiao Chen didn't show mercy because of this. With a thought, everyone present was instantly torn into pieces by the sword qi. Begging demons TXT Xiao Chen didn't even move a finger. He just relied on the power of the sword domain to kill everyone present. Seeing that Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao were fine, Xiao Chen deliberately scolded in a deep voice. The two of you are getting bolder and bolder. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, who were still in a daze, quickly recovered and ran to Xiao Chen. However, what greeted them wasn't Xiao Chen's comfort, but a slap. Xiao Chen fiercely slapped the two brothers on the head and shouted, "I'll deal with you when we get back." After being scolded by Xiao Chen, the two brothers curled their lips in grievance. Xiao Chen didn't say much and directly released their cultivation. Then, he went to rescue Dongfang Lin. Soon, he found the cell where Dongfang Lin was imprisoned and rescued her. When Dongfang Lin found out that Xiao Chen was the father of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, she was a little nervous. Xiao Chen didn't say much about this. After rescuing the three of them, Xiao Chen immediately prepared to leave. However, on the way, Xiao Lao said with some indignation, "Father, let's directly destroy the Black Wheel sect." Xiao Lao naturally didn't have the slightest favorable impression of the Black Wheel sect. Unfortunately, his words only attracted a slap from Xiao Chen. After being slapped again, Xiao Lao said with a look of dissatisfaction, "Am I wrong?" Xiao Lao really wanted to destroy the Black Wheel sect. At the side, Xiao Yao kept pulling Xiao Lao's sleeves. She thought to herself, "This silly brother, isn't he asking for a beating by saying this now?" Moreover, even if we want to destroy the Black Wheel sect, now is not the time. Do you think the Black Wheel sect is a small sect? Xiao Lao naturally didn't show as much as Xiao Yao. Xiao Lao only knew that the Black Wheel sect really deserved to die. Therefore, after seeing his father, Xiao Lao only wanted his father to destroy the Black Wheel sect. "Stinking brat, if you don't want to be beaten, you'd better shut up. Do you think your father needs you to teach me what to do?" After scolding Xiao Lao coldly, Xiao Chen directly took the three of them and left the Black Wheel sect. The safety of the three of them was the most important. After taking the three of them out of the Black Wheel world, the following matters would be easy to deal with. Soon, they arrived outside the Black Wheel sect. Xiao Chen also saw Long Qing and Xiao Xiao, who had arrived in time. Seeing Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin, who were beside Xiao Chen, Long Qing and Xiao Xiao secretly breathed a sigh of relief. "How are you? Are you all right?" "I'm fine. Let's leave first." Hearing this, Xiao Chen nodded and replied. Along the way, the people of the Black Wheel sect couldn't stop Xiao Chen at all. The group of people smoothly left the continent where the Black Wheel sect was located and went straight in the direction of the spatial black hole. The rescue operation this time went very smoothly. Of course, the most important reason was that Dongfang Yun successfully stalled Ancestor He and the many experts of the Black Wheel sect. It seemed that Dongfang Yun didn't play any tricks. Because of this, there weren't many experts in the Black Wheel sect. Xiao Chen was able to rescue Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin so smoothly. Now that the three of them had been rescued, it was estimated that it was time for him to fulfill his promise, which was to cooperate with Dongfang Yun to destroy the Black Wheel sect and get rid of the big problem in Dongfang Yun's heart. Chapter 27-29. Xiao Chen didn't have much resistance to the alliance with Dongfang Yun. The main reason was that Xiao Chen didn't have a good impression of the Black Wheel world. If Aunt May hadn't kidnapped Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, Xiao Chen might not have cooperated with Dongfang Yun so easily. However, since the Black Wheel world kidnapped his two sons first, they shouldn't blame Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's character wasn't the kind of person who could endure a loss. "Since you dared to kidnap my sons, I'll destroy your Black Wheel sect." It's a very simple reason. Along the way to the location of the spatial black hole, Xiao Chen and his party successfully rescued Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Dongfang Yun naturally received the news. Similarly, Ancestor He also knew what happened in the Black Wheel sect. His eyes flashed coldly as he stared at Dongfang Yun. Dongfang Yun, you've joined forces with the vast thousand world? A world lord suddenly appeared in the Black Wheel sect and directly rescued Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Ancestor He didn't need to think to know that it must be the world lord of the vast thousand world. After all, it was impossible for world lord from other universes to enter the Black Wheel world for no reason. Hearing Ancestor He's words, Dongfang Yun sneered. Sometimes I really don't know if I should say that you're stupid. Old man He, this time you kidnapped my daughter. I know your purpose, but why did you kidnap Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao as well? Didn't you think that doing so might anger the vast thousand world? Dongfang Yun's words were full of ridicule, and the matter was indeed so. Why did Aunt May kidnap Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao? If Aunt May hadn't done anything to the two brothers, Xiao Chun probably wouldn't have been involved in this matter. There is no doubt that the actions of the Black Wheel world had given the Red Wind world an ally, which made the situation of the Black Wheel world even more dangerous. Ancestor He had his suspicions about Auntie May kidnapping Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. However, even if he had doubts in his heart, so what? Auntie May had given her own explanation. Moreover, at that time, things had already come to this point. It was impossible to see the two brothers again and return them. Moreover, even if she returned them, it was unknown whether Xiao Chun would appreciate it. It could be said that Ancestor He's move was indeed a little foolish. Not only did he gain an ally for the Red Wind world, but he also created a great enemy for himself. What was even more exaggerated was that Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin, who were supposed to be hostages, had been successfully rescued by Xiao Chun. In other words, the Black Wheel world had no cards in their hands now. Not only had all his previous plans failed, but they had also attracted a great enemy for him. This was indeed a very unwise move. However, it was too late to say anything now. Things could not be changed, and the hostile relationship between the vast thousand world and the Black Wheel world was basically doomed. Just as Dongfang Yun's voice fell, Xiao Chun, Long Qing, Xiao Xiao, Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin had successfully arrived at the spatial black hole. Seeing Xiao Chun appear, Ancestor He wanted to stop him, but he simply did not have the ability to do so. He was firmly held back by Dongfang Yun, and the other experts of the Black Wheel sect were obviously unable to free themselves. Even if someone could stop him in front of Xiao Chun, even if it was an Ancestor Realm expert, it would be difficult to pose any threat. Therefore, Ancestor He could only watch as Xiao Chun led a few people directly into the black hole. Xiao Chun did not give Ancestor He any chance. He directly stepped onto a spatial spirit boat, rushed into the black hole, and floated away. With Xiao Chun's departure, Dongfang Yun also quickly issued the order to retreat. The rescue plan was successful, and there was no need to fight to the death here. The next step was to wait for the experts of the vast thousand world to arrive, and then they could give the Black Wheel world a fatal blow. Looking at Dongfang Yun and the others retreating, Ancestor He's face was ashen, but he did not give the order to pursue. Because even if he caught up, what could he do? After all, there was still Xiao Chun next to him. Two world lords were no longer something he could deal with alone. 228 Literature Network seeing Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin being rescued. Ancestor He could do nothing. With the departure of the people of the Red Wind world, Ancestor He returned to the starship with a gloomy face. Now the situation was very serious, mainly because Ancestor He did not expect that Dongfang Yun would reach a cooperation with the vast thousand worlds so quickly, and Xiao Chun also came to the Black Wheel world so quickly. Now that the cards in his hand were gone, not only did it mean that all the previous plans had failed, but it also brought great danger to the Black Wheel world. Without the threat of Dongfang Lin, Xiao Yao, and Xiao Lao, Xiao Chun and Dongfang Yun could obviously attack the Black Wheel world without any scruples. As for the Black Wheel world, it was equivalent to contending against two universes with its own strength, which was the most troublesome. With a gloomy face, Ancestor He said to a Black Wheel sect expert in front of him, "Where's Aunt May? Ask her to come see me." Yes. Hearing this, The Black Wheel sect expert respectfully nodded in response. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that things were not quite right. From the beginning to the end, Ancestor Hay did not think that Aunt May would betray him, but now that he thought about it, Aunt May kidnapped Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Was it really as she said? Just because she felt that they might be useful in the future, she kidnapped Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Was it really that simple? Didn't Aunt May think that doing so would provoke a great enemy for the Black Wheel world? Would it turn the vast 1,000 domains, which they had no contact with, into an enemy of the Black Wheel world? Thinking about it carefully, Aunt May's action this time seemed to be loyal, devoted, and perfect, but there were many things that were puzzling. It was because of Aunt May's puzzling and incomprehensible actions that the Black Wheel world ended up in such a situation. For a moment, Ancestor Hay really wanted to ask Aunt May personally what she was thinking or what was the purpose behind her actions. Now it was Ancestor Hay's turn to have a headache. After successfully rescuing the 3 people and leaving the Black Wheel world, Dongfang Yun and Xiao Chun did not leave. Instead, they directly sealed the black hole leading to the Black Wheel world, waiting for the arrival of the experts from the vast 1,000 domains. When they came to the spatial spirit ship where Xiao Chun was and saw his daughter, Dongfang Yun first smiled slightly, then looked at Xiao Chun. I've shown my sincerity. I also hope that there won't be any problems in the next cooperation. Dongfang Yun had indeed shown enough sincerity to rescue Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin. She had also really stalled many experts of the Black Wheel sect. In response, Xiao Chen nodded in agreement. Don't worry, as long as you sincerely cooperate, I will never play any tricks behind your back. Chapter 2730. Xiao Chen wasn't opposed to cooperating with Dongfang Yun. Dongfang Yun smiled and didn't say anything else. She just asked, how long will it take for your people to arrive? Xiao Chen wasn't opposed to cooperating with Dongfang Yun. Dongfang Yun smiled and didn't say anything else. She just asked, how long will it take for your people to arrive? 3 days at most, Xiao Chen replied right away after hearing the question. He had already contacted Xinyuan Ling and learned that they were already on the way. They would be able to meet up with him in 3 days at most. Dongfang Yun nodded after hearing Xiao Chen's words. The two chatted for a while before leaving. Xiao Chen naturally brought Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, Long Qing, and Xiao Xiao to live together. Dongfang Yun returned to the camp of the Red Wind world. Of course, Dongfang Lin also left with her. After Dongfang Yun left, Xiao Xiao looked at Xiao Chun and said, Junior brother, do you really intend to cooperate with her? Why not? Destroying the Black Wheel world won't bring us any loss. Moreover, this time, the Black Wheel world provoked us first, Xiao Chen replied with a smile. An eye for an eye was Xiao Chen's motto. Besides, after the Black Wheel world was destroyed, the Holy Palace could still get half of the harvest, so why not? They already had a grudge, and now there were benefits, so there was nothing to worry about. However, after hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xiao Xiao said with some worry, That's true, but the strength of the Black Wheel world isn't weak. We still have to be careful. A universe couldn't be destroyed at will, but even if it couldn't be destroyed, it would be crippled this time. Xiao Chen glanced at Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao and sneered. I can beat my son, but others can't. Therefore, the Black Wheel world must be taught a lesson. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Xiao Xiao was afraid that the Great Thousand world would suffer too great a loss in this battle. Xiao Chen also knew what Xiao Xiao was worried about, but Xiao Chun had already thought about it. If the price was really too great, Xiao Chun would definitely stop in time. After all, the Black Wheel world was so far away from the Great Thousand world. The Black Wheel world didn't have much influence on the Great Thousand world. If things didn't work out, Xiao Chun would definitely stop. As for the Red Wind world, it wasn't something that Xiao Chun should consider. After all, benefits were the most important thing in this world. Who would do something that didn't benefit them? Seeing that Xiao Chen wasn't acting impulsively, Xiao Xiao didn't say anything more. Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao didn't speak either. Xiao Lao also learned to be smart. He knew that he had caused a lot of trouble this time, so it was better to be quiet at this time. However, in Xiao Lao's heart, he still felt that this was his wish. It had nothing to do with him. To put it bluntly, he and his brother had suffered an undeserved disaster and were implicated. Who would have thought that Aunt May, who was by Dongfang Lin's side, was actually a traitor? If they had known that Aunt May was problematic, the two brothers would have sent people to take her down long ago, and there wouldn't be so much trouble. However, the two brothers were still young after all. They only felt that they were implicated this time, but they didn't realize that Aunt May's action this time was full of strangeness. Ancestor He, who was in the Black Wheel world, was in a very bad mood at this time. First, he learned that the people of the Red Wind world had directly blocked the black hole leading to the Black Wheel world. Then, he learned that Aunt May had gone missing. Love me. He sent people to look for Aunt May, but after searching around, no one had seen her. The black hole wasn't here, and the Black Wheel sect wasn't here either. Ancestor He immediately sensed that something was wrong when he learned this news. Aunt May's disappearance was absolutely impossible to be a coincidence. Moreover, she had disappeared at this time. Everything was too coincidental. For a moment, Ancestor He thought that Aunt May had deliberately kidnapped Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao in order to make the Black Wheel world and the Vast Thousand World enemies. Now that her goal had been achieved, Aunt May had escaped. Thinking of such a result, Ancestor He's face was gloomy. He said to the expert of the Black Wheel sect below, "Find her. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you must find her. I don't believe that she can escape from the Black Wheel world." Now that the Black Wheel world was facing the joint attack of 2 universes and Aunt May was missing, one could imagine Ancestor He's mood. Seeing that Ancestor He was in a very bad mood, the expert of the Black Wheel sect didn't dare to say much and immediately nodded in agreement. On the one hand, he was thinking about how to deal with the joint attack of the Vast Thousand World and the Red Wind world. On the other hand, Ancestor He was constantly guessing what Aunt May's purpose was. Previously, he had absolute trust in Aunt May. After all, he had been lurking in the Red Wind world for so many years, and Aunt May had never betrayed him. But this time, what was her purpose? What good would it do Aunt May to attract such a great emperor for the Black Wheel world? Or rather, what good would it do Aunt May if the Black Wheel world was defeated? Aunt May was a member of the Black Wheel sect. If the Black Wheel sect was defeated, Aunt May would definitely not have a good end. Moreover, Dongfang Yun could let anyone from the Black Wheel sect go, but he couldn't let Aunt May go. So, what was the difference between her actions and self-destruction? Ancestor He couldn't figure out Aunt May's motive. He could only say that there must be someone behind her, and it was the person behind her who instructed her to do so. But who was the person behind Aunt May? He couldn't figure out. Things had become very strange for a while. After 3 days of searching, Ancestor He still couldn't find any trace of Aunt May. It was as if she had directly evaporated into thin air. Even with the strength of the Black Wheel sect, there was no way to find the slightest clue about Aunt May. Logically speaking, as long as Aunt May was still in the Black Wheel world, it was impossible for her to not leave any clues under the all-out search of the Black Wheel sect. But it was so strange that the Black Wheel sect had exhausted all means, but they still couldn't find any trace of Aunt May. At the same time, outside the Black Wheel world, many experts from the Vast Thousand World had finally arrived. Under the leadership of Xinyuan Ling, hundreds of starships from the Vast Thousand World slowly stopped outside the black hole of the Black Wheel world. Xinyuan Ling, Jun Wuya, Dao Xiong, and the others immediately found Xiao Chun. With the arrival of the experts from the Vast Thousand World, the attack on the Black Wheel world was imperative. After a discussion with Dongfang Yun, both sides would enter the Black Wheel world together tomorrow and launch a decisive battle with the Black Wheel sect. Combining the power of 2 universes from the surface, the alliance between Xiao Chun and Dongfang Yun was obviously enough to crush the Black Wheel world. With the strength of the Black Wheel world, it was impossible for them to withstand this wave of attack. Dongfang Yun was full of confidence in this battle and was not worried at all about any variables. Chapter 2731. The attack on the Black Wheel world was imperative. With Xin Yuanling leading a group of experts from the vast thousand world, the Black Wheel world seemed to have become a fish on the chopping board, and there was not much hope of winning. There is no need to mention the advantages of combining the forces of the two universes to deal with the Black Wheel world. However, before the war began, Xin Yuanling still had some doubts in his heart. In fact, on the way here, Xin Yuanling had already keenly sensed that something was wrong, and his thoughts were actually the same as Ancestor Hayes. They were both suspicious of Aunt May's motives. At first, they were worried about the safety of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, so no one thought much about it. But now, with the rescue of Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, Xin Yuanling suddenly began to suspect the purpose of Aunt May's actions. Clearly, she only needed to kidnap Dongfang Lin to achieve her goal, but why did she have to kidnap Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao? Why did she have to forcibly bring the vast thousand world, which had nothing to do with her, into the enmity between the Red Wind world and the Black Wheel world? Aunt May's actions were indeed strange. Logically speaking, she was from the Black Wheel world, so she should consider the Black Wheel world when doing things. Moreover, since she could become an Ancestor Realm expert, she certainly would not be brainless. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to break through to the Ancestor Realm, and even more impossible for her to hide in the Red Wind world for so many years without being discovered. However, it was such a seemingly intelligent person who did something completely stupid. Could it be that Aunt May really did not think that kidnapping Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao would attract a great enemy for the Black Wheel world? Or did she think that the strength of the Black Wheel world was enough to contend with the joint attack of the two universes, the Red Wind world and the Vast Thousand world? Or did she not think that the Red Wind world and the Vast Thousand world would unite? In Xin Yuanling's opinion, the above conjectures were unlikely. First of all, with Aunt May's thoughts, it was impossible that she did not think of the consequences of kidnapping Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. Secondly, no matter how strong the Black Wheel world was, it was absolutely impossible to contend with the Red Wind world and the Vast Thousand world at the same time. However, since she knew this, why did Aunt May insist on kidnapping Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao? Was it because he felt that the two brothers might be useful in the future? However, as long as one calmed down and thought about it, it was not difficult to understand. Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao's identities were indeed special, but kidnapping the two of them would definitely do more harm than good. Not only would it not bring any benefits to the Black Wheel world, but would also attract the retaliation of the Vast Thousand world. This was certain. Despite knowing this, Aunt May still did it. After thinking about it, Xin Yuanling felt that there was only one possibility, and that was that Aunt May might have her own selfish motives. She was not only loyal to the Black Wheel world. This was because her actions this time seemed to have completed the mission of the Black Wheel world. But in fact, she had also severely tricked the Black Wheel world and brought a great enemy to the Black Wheel world. After hearing Xin Yuanling's words, Xiao Chun said calmly, "Are you saying that this might be a show put on by the Red Wind world itself? In fact, Aunt May has already turned to the Red Wind world?" After guessing the meaning of Xin Yuanling's words, Xin Yuanling guessed that Aunt May was a double agent. Perhaps she was indeed a person of the Black Wheel world at the beginning, but after living in the Red Wind world for so many years, Aunt May had long been subdued by the Red Wind world. Therefore, this action could be said to be a plot by Dongfang Yun to beat her at her own game. Knowing that Aunt May wanted to kidnap Dongfang Lin, Dongfang Yun motioned for Aunt May to kidnap the two brothers together with Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. The purpose was to rope in the Vast Thousand world and facilitate the union of the two universes to launch an attack on the Black Wheel world together. This was the most reasonable explanation that Xin Yuanling could think of. Otherwise, why would Aunt May do this? After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xin Yuanling nodded slightly, acknowledging Xiao Chen's conjecture. However, in this regard, Xiao Chun said very calmly, "It doesn't make much sense to be entangled in this now. Even if Aunt May is really a double agent, so what? Yao and Lao have also been rescued, and the matter of the alliance is already set in stone. We don't have to worry about these things for the time being. Let's take down the Black Wheel world first. Xiao Chun did not deny Xin Yuanling's conjecture because it made sense, but he did not intend to pursue it because it was indeed meaningless to pursue it urgently. To put it bluntly, even if it was proven that this matter was a self-directed play by the Red Wind world from the beginning to the end, so what? Other than destroying the current alliance, there was no other benefit. And the most important thing was that the vast Thousand World could gain a lot of benefits by joining forces with the Red Wind world. Benefits were always the best way to maintain a relationship. As for whether there were any dirty tricks behind this, it was not important. The important thing was that by joining forces with the Red Wind world, Xiao Chun could get what he wanted. Not to mention that the two brothers, Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao, were still safe and sound at this time. Therefore, it was meaningless to pursue the truth behind these matters. Now, they only needed to confirm one thing, and that was that all of this was done by the Black Wheel world. This was enough. As for the truth, sometimes it was not so important. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xin Yuanling did not refute, because Xiao Chen's decision had its own reasons, and it was also in line with the interests of the vast Thousand World. Xin Yuanling had no reason to refute or refuse. Well, don't think about these things anymore. Regardless of what Aunt May is thinking, what we need to do now is to take down the Black Wheel world. Even if we can't directly destroy it, we must at least get enough benefits, Xiao Chun said with a smile as he looked at Xin Yuanling. Hearing this, Xin Yuanling nodded, and the night passed quickly. Early the next morning, Dongfang Yun and Xiao Chun led their respective experts and directly entered the black hole of the Black Wheel world. It was obvious that they were ready to launch an attack on the Black Wheel world. Following the actions of Xiao Chun and Dongfang Yun, the Black Wheel world was naturally the first to notice. Almost at the same time, an expert of the Black Wheel sect reported the matter to Ancestor He. Hearing the actions of Xiao Yao and Dongfang Yun, Ancestor He's face was gloomy, but he still asked, "What about Aunt May's whereabouts? Or is there no clue at all?" "Sect Master, there must be no trace. It's as if she has evaporated into thin air," the expert of the Black Wheel sect replied. He had not given up on searching for Aunt May's whereabouts. Until now, Ancestor He was certain that Aunt May had betrayed him and the Black Wheel sect. If it were not for her, the Black Wheel world would not have fallen into such a situation. Chapter 2732. In the beginning, Ancestor He didn't want to believe that Aunt May would betray him. However, when Aunt May disappeared and couldn't be found, Ancestor He slowly felt that he might have been betrayed by Aunt May. In the beginning, Ancestor He didn't want to believe that Aunt May would betray him. However, when Aunt May disappeared and couldn't be found, Ancestor He slowly felt that he might have been betrayed by Aunt May. Ancestor He's conjecture was extremely similar to Xin Yuanling's. Ancestor He also believed that Aunt May did this because she had long been subdued by the Red Wind world. Everything she did this time, on the surface, seemed to be working for the Black Wheel world, but in fact, she was harming the Black Wheel world and attracting a great enemy to the Black Wheel world. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. His killing intent towards Aunt May continued to rise. At this time, if Ancestor He found Aunt May's whereabouts, he would definitely let her know what it meant to live a life worse than death. However, it was very likely that even after searching the entire Black Wheel world, he still couldn't find any clues about Aunt May. This made Ancestor He extremely depressed. Moreover, at this moment, Xiao Chun and Dongfang Yun had directly taken action. The experts of the two universes had joined forces and entered the wormhole, heading straight for the Black Wheel world. Facing the joint attack of two worlds at the same time, the Black Wheel world naturally found it difficult to resist. However, there was no other way. Could they give up on the Black Wheel world? This was obviously impossible. A cold light flashed in Ancestor He's eyes. In his heart, he had already put all the blame on Aunt May. If it weren't for Aunt May's betrayal, the Black Wheel world wouldn't be like this. Ancestor He wasn't afraid of the Red Wind world at all, not to mention that he had Dongfang Lin in his hands. However, Aunt May was an idiot. She had to kidnap the Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao brothers from the vast thousand world. That was why she had attracted such a great enemy from the vast thousand world. Furthermore, she had forced the vast thousand world and the Red Wind world to form an alliance to deal with the Black Wheel world together. Ancestor He couldn't find any trace of Aunt May, mainly because he had no time to take care of this bitch. The most important thing now was how to deal with the attack from the vast thousand world and the Red Wind world. After a moment of silence, Ancestor He said in a deep voice, "Let's get everyone ready." Retreating was definitely out of the question. Even if he did, where could he retreat to? Could it be that he would hand over the entire Black Wheel world? As the Lord of the World, Ancestor He would never do such a thing. Now, the best way that Ancestor He could think of was to use all means to divide the alliance between the vast thousand world and the Red Wind world. Only by dividing the two sides would the Black Wheel world have a chance to survive. Of course, if they could directly persuade Shao Chun to retreat, that would naturally be the best result. At that time, they would only need to face the Red Wind world, and the pressure on the Black Wheel world would be much less. He had never thought of talking to the Red Wind world. After all, with the relationship between the Black Wheel world and the Red Wind world, there was basically no possibility of reconciliation between the two sides. However, the Boundless world was different. There was no enmity between the Black Wheel world and the Vast Thousand world. It was only because Aunt May kidnapped Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao that this angered Shao Chun, leading to the alliance between the Vast Thousand world and the Red Wind world. Therefore, it was not impossible to persuade the Vast Thousand world. As long as Shao Chun nodded, everything would not be a problem. This could be said to be the only way that Ancestor He could think of at the moment. If it didn't work, then he could only fight to the death. However, the result could be imagined. Even if the Black Wheel world was not destroyed in the end, it would certainly be severely damaged. This was something that Ancestor He did not want to see. Outside the wormhole, many experts of the Black Wheel sect were on standby. Ancestor He naturally stood at the forefront of the team, looking at the exit of the wormhole with a grave expression. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, many experts of the Vast Thousand world and the Red Wind world finally entered the Black Wheel world. What entered their eyes was a dense fleet of starships. The experts of the two universes were standing on the decks at this time, obviously ready for battle. Seeing the number of experts after the alliance between the Red Wind world and the Vast Thousand world, the people of the Black Wheel sect couldn't help but gasp. The gap in numbers alone was already impossible to make up for. Moreover, after the alliance between the Red Wind world and the Vast Thousand world, not only did they have an absolute advantage in terms of numbers, but their quality was also not inferior in the slightest. The number of Ancestor Realm and Emperor Realm Masters was not something that the Black Wheel sect could compare with. Before the battle began, it was clear at a glance how big the gap in strength between the two sides was. As the starships of the Vast Thousand world and the Red Wind world continued to enter the Black Wheel world, the space spirit ship that Shao Chun and Dongfang Yun were riding also came to the forefront of the team. Shao Chun and Dongfang Yun stood on the deck, facing Ancestor He from a distance. Shao Chun looked calm, and there was nothing special about him, while Dongfang Yun's eyes were surging with murderous intent. This alliance with the Vast Thousand world had made Dongfang Yun's confidence soar, and he didn't hide his murderous intent towards Ancestor He at all. Facing the completely different expressions of the two, Ancestor He directly ignored Dongfang Yun and looked at Shao Chun. With a smile on his face, he took the initiative to cup his fists and salute. "This must be Brother Shao Chun. I've heard a lot about you." His attitude was very gentle. There was no other way. The Black Wheel sect was now an absolute disadvantage, and Shao Chun was the key to changing the current unfavorable situation of the Black Wheel sect. Therefore, Ancestor He had no choice. Upon hearing Ancestor He's words, Dongfang Yun frowned slightly. "Old man He, you still want to play those little tricks?" Dongfang Yin naturally knew what Ancestor He wanted to do. However, Ancestor He ignored her words. Instead, he stared at Shao Chun. Brother Shao Chun, my Black Wheel world and your vast thousand world have no enmity in the past. I think there is some misunderstanding in this matter. I was also framed by that bitch. I can swear that this old man has absolutely no hostility towards the vast thousand world. For this matter, my Black Wheel sect can also make compensation. I hope that Brother Shao Chun can turn hostility into friendship. What do you think? Ancestor He said bluntly, directly ignoring Dongfang Yun's words, and immediately offered compensation. Ancestor He was not stupid. He knew that it was impossible to make Shao Chun withdraw with just words. After all, Shao Chun had come from afar and did not get any benefits. It was obviously not appropriate to ask him to leave. It was easier to invite the devil than to send him away. Unfortunately, upon hearing Ancestor He's words, Shao Chun smiled slightly and said indifferently, "That's right, but since things have come to this, I don't think your Black Wheel sect is qualified to negotiate with me. What do you say?" As soon as Shao Chun said this, Dongfang Yun's heart calmed down, while Ancestor He's face darkened. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation. End of chapter. Chapter 2733. Shao Chen's words made Dongfang Yun secretly heave a sigh of relief, but it also made Ancestor He's face sink. He originally planned to think of a way to persuade Shao Chun to withdraw, even at the expense of compensating Shao Chun. But who knew that Shao Chun would refuse so bluntly? Even after hearing that he was willing to pay compensation, Shao Chun chose to refuse without the slightest hesitation. Shao Chen's answer surprised Ancestor He. Forcing himself to calm down, Ancestor He looked at Shao Chun and said in a solemn tone, "Shao Chun, there is no enmity between us. This is a matter between my Black Wheel world and the Hongfeng world. It has nothing to do with you. Why do you have to get involved? Even if there was a reason before, my Black Wheel sect is willing to compensate you. Is this not enough to satisfy you?" Ancestor He was still unwilling to give up. After all, facing Shao Chun and Dongfang Yun at the same time really put a lot of pressure on him. If he could persuade Shao Chun to withdraw, it would naturally be the best result. He was prepared to bleed a lot for this. However, as soon as Ancestor He's voice fell, Shao Chun directly said, "You are right. You're right, and I also believe that you're willing to compensate. But as I said just now, you're no longer qualified to negotiate. First of all, you don't have a hostage in your hands now. Secondly, do you think that the compensation you give is more than what Dongfang Yun and I will get from defeating the Black Wheel world?" Shao Chen's words were true. How much compensation could Ancestor He give? When he and Dongfang Yun joined forces to defeat the Black Wheel sect, wouldn't the entire Black Wheel world be at his disposal? Wasn't this more tempting than Ancestor He's compensation? Shao Chen obviously had no intention of being persuaded by Ancestor He. Even though Ancestor He had said that he was willing to pay compensation, Shao Chun was still indifferent. In Shao Chen's view, Ancestor He's compensation was not worth mentioning to him. Moreover, the arrow was already on the bow. How could it be so easy to make Shao Chun retreat at this moment? Regardless of whether Ancestor He was framed by Aunt May or not, Shao Chun would not care about this. Last night, Xin Yuanling had asked him about this problem. At that time, Shao Chen's reply was that even if Aunt May did it herself, even if it was a self-directed and self-staged show in the Red Wind world, so what? Everything was now on the Black Wheel sect's head. Therefore, Ancestor He's claim that he was innocent was meaningless to Shao Chun because Shao Chun did not care whether Ancestor He was innocent or not. He was just looking for an excuse to attack the Black Wheel world. Whether all of this was done by Ancestor He or not, to Shao Chun, the person who took the blame could only be Ancestor He himself. Upon hearing Shao Chen's words, Ancestor He was taken aback. He wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Dongfang Yun. Dongfang Yun said with a gloomy face, "Old man He, things have already come to this point. What else do you want to say? Cut the crap and let's fight." Having said that, Dongfang Yun attacked without any explanation. Seeing this, the experts of the Red Wind world naturally rushed toward the experts of the Black Wheel world without hesitation. The battle broke out directly. Seeing this scene, Xiao Chun just shook his head and smiled. Dongfang Yun was really a little anxious. Xiao Chun could understand Dongfang Yun's anxiety. After all, she was also worried that he would be persuaded by Ancestor He. By then, things would be troublesome. The cooperation between the two sides was not close to begin with. They were only united because of benefits, which was different from the Great Thousand World and the Great World. However, Xiao Chan first told Dongfang Yun that she was thinking too much. Based on the current situation, Xiao Chun had no reason to tear up the cooperation between the two sides, because if they continued to cooperate, Xiao Chun and the Great Thousand World would be able to obtain more benefits. Book 8. Therefore, after Dongfang Yun attacked without any explanation, Xiao Chun also shouted softly, "Kill!" Then, he took the initiative to join the battle and attacked Ancestor He together with Dongfang Yun. In this regard, Xin Yuan Ling, Junwia, Long Qing, and the other experts of the Great Thousand World naturally did not hesitate to attack the experts of the Black Wheel world. As the World Lord of the Black Wheel world, Ancestor He had obviously become the #1 target of Xiao Chun and Dongfang Yun. Therefore, when the two of them attacked, their target was Ancestor He. The two world lords joined forces, and as soon as they exchanged blows, Ancestor He felt a huge pressure. This was not a simple matter of 1 + 1 = 2. Xiao Chun and Dongfang Yun were both world lords. Even if Xiao Chun had just broken through to become a world lord, his strength was still not to be underestimated. Moreover, Dongfang Yun's strength was not much weaker than Ancestor He's. In this way, the pressure that the two of them gave Ancestor He could be imagined. Dongfang Yun was obviously not willing to give Ancestor He the slightest chance, so she attacked with all her strength without holding back at all. Every move was a killing move, and Ancestor He was suffering. On the other hand, although Xiao Chen's attacks were not as fierce as Dongfang Yun's, Ancestor He had no choice but to be on guard because Xiao Chen's swordsmanship attack was extremely strong. If he was not careful, he might be injured. Fighting 1 against 2, Ancestor He realized that he had underestimated the situation. This was not a question of whether he could resist. Ancestor He now only felt that it was unknown whether he could survive under the joint attack of these two people. Sword Realm was directly displayed, crazily suppressing Ancestor He's movements. The terrifying sword Qi kept attacking Ancestor He himself, while Xiao Chun held the dustless sword in his hand. The sword edge swept horizontally, and every sword was aimed at Ancestor He's vital points. Damn it! Ancestor He, who was fighting fiercely with Dongfang Yun, cursed secretly when he saw Xiao Chen's sword slash. However, he could only turn his head to defend. For this, he even took a palm strike from Dongfang Yun. In terms of attack power, Xiao Chun was definitely above Dongfang Yun. After all, sword cultivators were known for their powerful attack power. Not to mention, Xiao Chun was a world lord. His swordsmanship could be considered as the pinnacle existence. Therefore, Ancestor He would rather be injured by Dongfang Yun than take Xiao Chen's attack head-on. Moreover, Xiao Chun also had Sword Realm, and the power of his attack was further enhanced. In order to guard against Xiao Chen's attack, Ancestor He was hit by Dongfang Yun's palm strike. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his figure also staggered a few steps back. Ancestor He looked at Xiao Chun with anger in his eyes and coldly shouted, "Xiao Chun, do you really want to become enemies with my Black Wheel world?" Ancestor He was both angry and afraid of Xiao Chun. However, in the face of his angry shout, Xiao Chun only responded with the sword in his hand. He did not hesitate to slash out again. Ancestor He's brows twitched when he saw this. He had no choice but to continue resisting. There was no chance for him to take a breather. It was impossible to trade injury for injury, and it was even more impossible to trade life for life. The only thing he could do was to try his best to persevere. However, there was always a limit to such perseverance. Once that limit was exceeded, there was no other way. The situation of the war was firmly controlled by the Vast Thousand World and the Red Wind World. The Black Wheel World had no chance of turning the tables, mainly because there was no way to reverse the situation. Unless a miracle happened, the outcome of the Black Wheel World was already set. At the same time that the war broke out in the Black Wheel World, the Macro World was also not calm. In the Cloud Palace of the Macro World, Xiao Chun, Lin Yuan, Lin Hu, Li Tian, and the others gathered in the main hall. Generally, in the Cloud Palace, unless there was a major event, everyone rarely gathered in the main hall. Moreover, not to mention the fact that everyone was gathered in the hall, everyone's expression was particularly solemn. Even the monk and the Taoist priest, who were usually serious, were silent. It was obvious that something big had happened. Sitting in the main seat, Lin Yun said expressionlessly, "What's the situation now? They have already entered the wormhole." Hearing this, Li Tian opened his mouth and replied. The reason why the Cloud Palace of the Macro World was so solemn was entirely because of the unusual movements in the Great Devil World. According to the news, Mo Hao of the Great Devil World had gathered the power of the entire Great Devil World and directly entered the wormhole leading to the Macro World without warning. Such a big movement naturally could not be hidden from the spies of the Cloud Palace. As for the movements of the Great Devil World, the Cloud Palace naturally did not believe that they were here for a vacation. To put it bluntly, they were launching a large-scale attack on the Macro World. As for why the Great Devil World suddenly made such a big move, the Cloud Palace did not know for the time being. However, in any case, the Cloud Palace absolutely could not turn a blind eye to this. Therefore, as soon as she received the news, Lin Yun had already transferred many of the Cloud Palace's experts to the Black Hole to defend it. Hearing Li Tian's answer, Lin Yun sneered. Is Mo Hao planning to take revenge for last time? Such a large-scale operation can be said to be going bankrupt. Although Lin Yun was smiling when she said this, the coldness in her eyes became more and more vigorous. According to the news, Mo Hao's operation this time was not a small matter. Almost all the experts of the Great Devil World had gathered, as if he was staking everything on a single throw. This had far exceeded the scope of an ordinary conflict between two universes. It was a decisive battle of life and death in the true sense. Otherwise, why would Mo Hao bring so many people here? Obviously, he wanted to destroy the Macro World in one fell swoop. Chapter 2735. For the time being, they didn't know why he would attack the outside world on such a large scale, but now wasn't the time to think about it. Since he had come in such an aggressive manner, Cloud Palace had to respond. They couldn't just let he charge him like that. For the time being, they didn't know why he would attack the outside world on such a large scale, but now wasn't the time to think about it. Since he had come in such an aggressive manner, Cloud Palace had to respond. They couldn't just let he charge him like that. Regardless of why he had come in such a large scale, Cloud Palace had responded immediately. Many of Cloud Palace's experts rushed to the black hole in the outside world, waiting for he and the other experts from the Great Devil World to appear. They didn't have to wait for long. Just one day later, he really led the experts from the Great Devil World to the outside world. Starships and spatial spirit boats from the demonic abyss rushed out of the black hole. When they saw this, Lin Yun, Lin Yuan, Li Tian, and the other higher-ups of Cloud Palace all had gloomy expressions. Just as the reports said, he had indeed come in such a large scale that it seemed like he would fight to the death with the outside world. Faced with the increasing number of experts from the Great Devil World, both sides faced each other. At this time, he arrived on the deck of a spatial spirit boat and looked coldly at Lin Yun and the others from Cloud Palace. Lin Yun, today is the day your Cloud Palace will be destroyed. I'm afraid you're not enough, Lin Yun said calmly. Emohi had staked everything on this attack, but Lin Yun didn't show any intention of backing down. As soon as the two of them finished speaking, Emohi didn't waste any time and immediately gave the order to attack. For a time, the experts from the Great Devil world attacked the experts from the outside world. The two sides immediately engaged in a fierce battle. Lin Yun and Emohi also fought fiercely. Both sides were locked in a fierce battle. The fierce battle also broke out in the outside world, but this was only the beginning. Almost at the same time, the Hongmeng world and heretical sect also started a war for no reason. No one knew the specific reason. For a time, it was as if a war had broken out between the various universes. The two sides, which had once been able to restrain each other, seemed to have been possessed at the same time. They started a war in a frenzy. The flames of war spread to almost every universe. The flames of war could be seen everywhere, almost igniting everything. Xiao Chun and the others did not know about the war in other universes for the time being. After several days of fierce fighting, the Black Wheel world had indeed suffered heavy casualties. Ancestor He had no choice but to retreat in the end, completely giving up control of the black hole to Xiao Chun and Dongfang Yun. There was no other choice. Chapter 2737. Now, Xiao Chun and Ancestor He were in a hostile relationship, but this did not mean that there was no possibility of cooperation between the two. As Xiao Chun said, as long as they had a common purpose, there was a possibility of cooperation. As for the previous hatred, to put it bluntly, as long as the benefits were great enough, these could be ignored. Hearing Xiao Chun's words, Dongfang Yun fell into silence. Seeing this, Xiao Chun did not urge him, but quietly waited for Dongfang Yun's answer. In fact, Xiao Chun had already made a decision in his heart. Whether Dongfang Yun agreed or not, he had to go to the Black Wheel sect. Knowing that this matter was strange, he still wanted to jump into the pit. This was not Xiao Chun's character. After this period of investigation, Xiao Chun increasingly felt that everyone in the various universes had probably been set up. As for who the schemer was, Xiao Chun also had a rough guess in his heart, but it was not easy to say for the time being. After all, there were too many implications, and Xiao Chun was not familiar with the people in that place. He had only heard of it. The first thing he had to solve was to stop the battle in time. He couldn't let the person behind him succeed so easily. No matter what the person's goal was, he couldn't do what the other party expected. It was enough to understand this point. As for other things, he was afraid that he could only wait until he found Aunt May to come to a conclusion. After calmly waiting for Dongfang Yun's answer, Dongfang Yun finally said, "I will go with you tomorrow." Dongfang Yun did not refuse. In this regard, Xiao Chun nodded. Since they were going to cooperate, it was understandable that Dongfang Yun was present. In the face of a huge crisis, Dongfang Yun still rationally gave up his personal hatred. After all, this was a matter of great importance to the survival of all universes. Dongfang Yun could certainly distinguish which was more important. After reaching an agreement with Dongfang Yun, Xiao Chun returned to his spatial spirit boat. It was already late at night, but Xiao Chun did not rest. Instead, he contacted Lin Yun through the formation. He had always kept in touch with Lin Yun, but because he was in closed-door training to break through to the World Lord realm, the two had not seen each other for many years. However, for people at the level of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, a short 100 years was actually just a blink of an eye. The formation was activated, and soon, a phantom of Lin Yun appeared in front of Xiao Chun. On the other side, in front of Lin Yun in the Great World, a phantom of Xiao Chun also appeared. The two seemed to be talking face to face. "Congratulations, you have finally succeeded in reaching this step." Lin was Xiao Chun. Lin Yun was naturally talking about the matter of Xiao Chun becoming the world lord of the Great Thousand World.